Chapter 1195. Zhao Liangzi grinned and winked at her, then nodded to Hua Xiaoheng and said respectfully, "Mr. Hua, you're here." He was on a mission and didn't salute when he saw Hua Xiaoheng. Hua Xiaoheng glanced at him with a smile. His body was much stronger and his face was darker than before. However, in Hua Xiaoheng's eyes, he looked much better and more manly than Zhao Liangzi used to. Men should be like this. Hua Xiaoheng patted his shoulder. "You've worked hard." Zhao Liangzi was on the verge of tears at Hua Jinyao's words. He hurriedly blinked his eyes and suppressed the sudden surge of tears. "It's not hard. It's what I should do." Zhao Liangzi's voice was a little choked. He took a suitcase from Hua Xiaoheng and turned to leave. "Follow me, the car is over there." Hua Xiaoheng didn't want Zhao Liangzi to pick him up at the airport. However, when they told Zhao Liangzi that they were coming to Cape Town, Zhao Liangzi insisted on coming to pick them up. Hua Xiaoheng had no choice but to agree when he saw how pitiful Zhao Liangzi looked in the video. He had always been a reserved person and would not express his emotions so obviously. However, when others were agitated, he would still give them an appropriate amount of respect. Gu Nianji hadn't seen Zhao Liangzi for a long time. She knew he was on a mission, but she didn't know that his mission was in Cape Town. Could it have something to do with her father? However, Zhao Liangzi had been away on a mission for several months. How could Hua Xiaoheng have known that her father's whereabouts were related to Cape Town? Gu Nianji couldn't help but glance at Hua Xiaoheng. Hua Xiaoheng held her hand and looked at her deeply. His voice was low and magnetic. "Would you believe me if I said it was a coincidence?" Gu Nianji rolled her eyes and said playfully, "That's such a coincidence?" Hua Xiaoheng curled his lips. His gaze swept past her plump, curvy lips and he didn't say anything else. Whether it was really a coincidence or not, he would have to investigate to find out. To be honest, the more they investigated, the less hope Hua Xiaoheng had of Gu Xiangwen's survival. However, seeing how excited she was, Hua Xiaoheng couldn't bear to pour cold water on her. They got into the car and sped towards the hotel that Zhao Liangzi had booked for them. Cape Town was also an international metropolis facing the Atlantic Ocean. It had a magnificent sea view and many five-star hotels. This time, Hua Xiaoheng and Gu Nianji were disguised as an engaged couple on vacation. Zhao Liangzi had helped them choose a very luxurious apartment-style hotel. This apartment-style hotel was called Low Hill, and it was located near Victoria Beach. Each apartment had its own small outdoor swimming pool, and the interior design was modern and minimalist. It was low-key yet luxurious and the details were exquisite. Hua Xiaoheng had a feeling that Gu Nianji would like this style. As expected, when Zhao Liangzi drove them to the apartment, Gu Nianji's eyes widened. "The houses here are so beautiful." Gu Nianji spread her arms, closed her eyes and looked up at the sky to take a deep breath. Even the air was salty and fresh, unique to the sea breeze. The sky was dark blue without a single cloud. Where the sea met the sky, it was so blue that one couldn't even see the boundary. The entire apartment area was built on the bay. Looking up, one could see the blue sky and looking down, one could see the clear water. There were tropical banana trees planted on the fine white sand by the door. What was even rarer was that the outdoor swimming pool didn't have the pungent smell of chlorine. Zhao Liangzi saw Gu Nianji staring intently at the small swimming pool in the courtyard and smiled. "I heard that the pool water here is brought directly from the Atlantic Ocean. The water is changed every day so it's very clean and hygienic without chlorine." Gu Nianji understood this principle well. She understood it very well. She nodded, happy but also a little regretful. "It's a pity that the swimming pool is too small." "Is this a swimming pool?" "I think it's a spa tub. You can also use it as a spa tub. There's a heating button here. When you want to take a hot bath at night, just turn it on to warm it up." This apartment-style hotel was specially chosen by Zhao Liangzi for Gu Nianji and Hua Xiaoheng. Because the rent exceeded the budget, Zhao Liangzi had to pay out of his own pocket. While Hua Xiaoheng went into the room to put the luggage away, Zhao Liangzi touched Gu Nianji's head with emotion. "Have fun here with Hua Xiao. Think of it as an early wedding gift from Brother Zhe. Treat it as your honeymoon." He winked at Gu Nianji. Gu Nianji blushed and smiled calmly. "We're very busy. How can we have time for a honeymoon?" "Brother Zhe, don't talk nonsense about things that have no shadow." Okay, I'll stop." Zhao Liangzi nodded with a smile and gave her an "I understand" look. "Have a good rest today. I'll take you to my island for a vacation tomorrow." "Your island?" Hua Xiaoheng's voice sounded behind Zhao Liangzi. "Then should I call you the Island Lord?" Zhao Liangzi chuckled and turned to Hua Xiaoheng. "Hua Xiao, I just told Nianji to have fun here and treat it as a honeymoon in advance." Hua Xiaoheng's heart skipped a beat. But when he saw Gu Nianji look away, he suppressed the thought and slapped Zhao Liangzi. "What nonsense are you talking about? We have a mission this time." Zhao Liangzi's cheeky smile immediately disappeared when he mentioned the mission. He almost saluted Hua Xiaoheng. He said seriously, "I understand. Hua Xiao, please give me instructions." "Don't rush. We'll talk at your base tomorrow." Hua Xiaoheng patted his shoulder meaningfully. "You're staying here today?" Although he said he was inviting him to stay, his eyes clearly said, "If you dare agree, you're dead meat." In fact, the service-style apartment Zhao Liangzi rented for them had 3 bedrooms. It could accommodate 2 more people. But when Zhao Liangzi saw Hua Xiaoheng's eyes, he understood everything. He immediately resumed his cheeky smile and shook his head. No, I'm used to living on an island. It's too comfortable here. I'm afraid I won't be able to sleep if it's too noisy at night." As he spoke, he already ran away with a smile before Hua Xiaoheng raised an eyebrow and kicked him. As he ran, he waved in the air without looking back. He shouted, "Nianji, rest well. I'll pick you up tomorrow." He ran out of the apartment area and walked along the narrow bridge over the sea to the parking lot. He got into the car and quickly drove out. As soon as he drove onto the main road, Zhao Liangzi suddenly saw a tall woman in a red dress in the rearview mirror. The red dress fluttered in the wind and was very eye-catching in the blue sky and clear water. In a flash, he saw the woman's face. She was wearing large sunglasses, and only her tall nose and bright red lips could be seen. She was so plump that she didn't look like an Asian. That figure, that face, it looked so familiar. Zhao Liangzi was shocked and hurriedly braked. When he looked in the rearview mirror again, the woman in the red dress had disappeared. His heart was pounding and he was so nervous that his hands and feet were sweating. His breathing was rapid and for a moment he felt weak in his legs and almost couldn't drive. Why did that woman look so much like Bai Shuang, who often appeared in his dreams? Could it be that what he thought about during the day was what he dreamed about at night? Zhao Liangzi calmed himself down before stepping on the accelerator and continuing to drive forward. This apartment-style hotel was located in the suburbs near the sea and belonged to the upscale wealthy area. However, the urban area couldn't be compared to the wealthy areas in the suburbs. The streets were bumpy and the houses were dilapidated. Occasionally, there were a few tall convention and exhibition centers that supported the facade. Cape Town's current appearance was like a microcosm of the country. Once a developed country, it was now inferior to even a third-rate country. Zhao Liangzi drove uneasily and entered the main road leading out of the city to the harbor. After driving for a while, he saw the woman in the red dress get out of a taxi again. She carried a delicate Chanel bag and stood on the side of the road looking at her phone. At this moment, a black man suddenly rushed over on a skateboard from behind. As he passed by the woman in the red dress, he quickly reached out and snatched her phone. "Give it back to me." The woman blurted out in Mandarin, then changed it to English, "Help." Most of the passers-by were black. Everyone looked at her coldly, and no one chased after the robber who ran away on the skateboard. Zhao Liangzi saw that the woman was still chasing after him in high heels, and he couldn't help it anymore. He stepped on the accelerator and chased after her with a bang. This was the third update for today, Chapter 1186, Enemies on a Narrow Road. Today was the first day of double monthly votes in October. Everyone hurry up and cast your guaranteed monthly votes. At 10 p.m. the fourth update. I'm going all out today. Fourth update. Where's my guaranteed monthly votes? Oh. Chapter 1196. The black man on the skateboard held the phone of the woman in the red dress in his hand and ran quickly on the sidewalk by the side of the road. But no matter how fast he was not as fast as a car. Especially since Zhao Liangzi was the backbone of the Special Operations Forces. Although his performance in action was not as impressive as his computer performance, he was still much better than the average ordinary person. He was weak, but in comparison he was only slightly weaker in a row of Special Forces soldiers with incredible mobility. Zhao Liangzi's driving skills could be said to be second only to his computer skills. The streets of Cape Town were very spacious, but there were also many cars on the road, and many drivers did not like to drive according to traffic rules. They always rushed forward at red lights and stopped randomly at green lights. There was often an 18-wheeler truck parked in the middle of the street to unload. Because the driver was not skilled enough, it was impossible to park the 18-wheeler neatly on the side of the road. In short, most people in this city drove cars as casually as they rode bicycles. Therefore, the people who were affected were those who really followed the traffic rules. Zhao Liangzi had been here for several months. He had panicked at first, but now he could slip between the gaps of the cars without batting an eyelid. He brushed past the 18-wheeler parked in the middle of the road with a whoosh, bringing up a layer of khaki-colored smoke, but he could wave his hand without taking away a speck of dust. He had reached the entrance of an alley in front of him. On both sides were rows of swordleaf-shaped aloes with thick, fleshy skin and bright white flowers. The black man on the skateboard drove the skateboard to rush over. Just as he was about to slide into the alley, a khaki-colored jeep rushed over from who knows where. There was an ear-piercing sound of emergency braking, and the jeep's body suddenly made a 90-degree turn, blocking the entrance of the alley. The black man on the skateboard did not expect a car to suddenly rush out and block the road. As soon as he turned around, he saw that in front of him was not the alley passage he was used to, but a jeep as thick as a tank. Ah! The black man who had snatched the phone let out an earth-shattering scream, and his entire body crashed into the side of the jeep. At that moment, Zhao Yangzi leaned over and kicked the door out at the same time. The door sprung open and crashed into the dark-skinned man who had not stopped in time. The black man was dizzy from his own inertia and the force of the door's opening. He fell to the ground on his back with a thud. He saw stars and couldn't get up for a long time. Zhao Yangzi got out of the car and walked to the black man's side. He half knelt in front of him and reached out to take the phone away from him. He got up and kicked him. "Trash. You're courting death." As he spoke, he glanced at his phone. He was stunned by what he saw. Although the phone was locked, the picture on the screen was one that he couldn't be more familiar with. It was him when he was fair and handsome. He seemed to be at a cocktail party. He was wearing an autumn outfit and holding a glass of red wine in his hand. He leaned against the railing of the balcony and smiled at the people beside him. She didn't know who the person next to her was, but the angle of the photo was very good. His straight nose, angular lips, and thick, long eyelashes were all clearly visible. It was obvious that the camera had zoomed in to take the photo. On the screen, his fair skin was so close, but there was still no flaw. After looking at it for a long time, he almost didn't recognize the person in the screensaver. Was it really him? *CK. He had such a fair and handsome time. Zhao Yangzi's emotions were extremely complicated. Just as he was about to put away his phone and look for the woman in the red dress, he heard a very familiar voice behind him. "Thank you for helping me catch the thief." It was authentic British English. He could recognize that voice even with his eyes closed. It was Bai Shuang's. Zhao Yangzi suddenly turned around and looked at Bai Shuang. Under the blue sky of Cape Town, the sun was scorching, and the green aloes were quietly blooming on the street. The two people who hadn't seen each other since Gu Nianji's graduation ceremony party before the Spring Festival met again on the streets of a foreign country. Bai Shuang also seemed to be surprised to see Zhao Yangzi. When she saw that he was holding her phone in his hand, she suddenly seemed to remember something. Her face suddenly flushed and she suddenly reached out her hand. "Give me back my phone." Zhao Yangzi gripped the phone and saw the woman who often appeared in his dreams. For a moment he had mixed feelings. He stared at Bai Shuang for a few minutes before putting the phone in her open palm and saying, "Why are you here? Why do you care?" As soon as Bai Shuang saw him, she remembered the scene of him kissing Bai Yueran, and her heart felt like it was being stabbed by a knife. She thought she could let go of him. This man didn't like her even when she pursued him, but liked her cousin. After she found out, she resolutely cut off all contact with him. She traveled overseas, did volunteer work, and tossed and turned, forcibly uprooting him from the bottom of her heart. But as soon as she saw him and saw his indescribable gaze, she immediately threw away her armor and had nowhere to hide. It turned out that he had never left her heart. She had only locked him tightly inside with a door, pretending that she had lost the key and could no longer open the door. She had never thought about what she would do if Zhao Yangzi opened the door himself and walked out. Countless thoughts flashed through Zhao Yangzi's mind in an instant. But at this time his body reacted more directly and faster than his brain. As soon as he put the phone back in Bai Shuang's hand, he took her hand and pulled her into his arms. He hugged her tightly and lowered his head to kiss her. Bai Shuang originally wanted to struggle, but Zhao Yangzi seemed to have taken some kind of medicine. His entire body had become much stronger than before, and the arms holding her were filled with great strength that made her surrender. He was no longer the handsome, fair-skinned man from before, but she still liked and loved him. No matter what he had become, she found that she couldn't let go of him. Not long after, Bai Shuang's struggle gradually weakened. Her arms involuntarily wrapped around Zhao Yangzi's waist, and her lips responded to his kiss. The black man on the ground who had been knocked down watched this scene speechlessly and cursed inwardly. What the *CK. He climbed up from the ground and limped away with the skateboard in his arms. Zhao Yangzi immediately stopped kissing. He held Bai Shuang tightly in his arms with one hand and suddenly pulled out a pistol with the other. He aimed it at the black man and said coldly, "Stop. Hands up." The black man was so scared that he trembled. His knees were sore and weak. He knelt on the ground and raised his hands. Bai Shuang was fascinated by Zhao Liang's sudden domineering and heroic posture. She stared at him intently and couldn't help but snuggle up to him. Zhao Liang's face was fierce as he pointed the gun at the black man's head and said coldly, "If I see you stealing from others again, my gun is not to be trifled with." This is today's fourth update, Chapter 1187, Where Your Heart Goes. Today is the first day of the double monthly votes in October. Everyone hurry up and vote for your guaranteed monthly votes. I'm going all out today. Fourth update. Don't be careless and vote for your guaranteed monthly votes. Chapter 1197. The black man who had snatched Bai Shuang's phone was so scared that he peed himself. He held his head and crawled on the street, begging for mercy. Bai Shuang felt sorry for him again. She tugged at Zhao Liang's shirt and whispered, "Forget it. Just get the phone back." Zhao Liangza glanced at her, put away the gun, and still held her hand. "Get in the car." He opened the door and stuffed Bai Shuang into the car, then closed the door and got into the driver's seat from the other side. The jeep made a toot-toot sound and quickly sped up, leaving behind a trail of dust. After the excitement of their first encounter, the two of them felt awkward in the car, and neither of them said a word. Zhao Liangza drove all the way to the main street. When he was about to turn back to the dock, he suddenly remembered that he couldn't take Bai Shuang there. He turned the steering wheel and drove to the hotel in the center of Cape City. The hotel in the suburbs was actually more upscale and luxurious, but Zhao Liangza didn't plan to stay there because Hua Xiaoheng and Gun Yanji were staying there. He couldn't let Bai Shuang know that Hua Xiaoheng was also in Cape Town. Hua Xiaoheng was on a secret mission, and Bai Shuang was an acquaintance of Hua Xiaoheng. If they met, even if nothing happened, it would still be a leak to Zhao Liangza. When he first met Bai Shuang, although he was overwhelmed with admiration, years of strict training still made his mind tense. Bai Shuang couldn't help herself from the first encounter, but now that she had regained her composure, she not only felt embarrassed but also very angry. She kept a straight face and didn't speak along the way. Suddenly she saw the road ahead change and seemed to turn back. "Where are you going?" Bai Shuang couldn't help but ask. Zhao Liangza glanced at her. "Where do you live? Are you traveling to Cape Town?" Bai Shuang pouted. "It's none of your business. Let me out of the car. I'll take you back to the hotel." Zhao Liangza remembered that he had just met Bai Shuang in the city, so he naturally assumed that Bai Shuang should be staying in a hotel in the city center. Bai Shuang frowned. "If you take me back to the hotel, please turn around. I don't live here." "You don't live here?" Zhao Liangza stepped on the brakes in surprise. "Then why did you get off in a taxi in the city center?" Bai Shuang was stunned. "You saw me?" "I thought it was you." Zhao Liangza smiled. "You were wearing sunglasses, so I didn't dare to recognize you. I was afraid it would be awkward." "You make it sound like it's not awkward anymore." Bai Shuang rolled her eyes. "I'm going to the convention center in the city to participate in an event. I'm not staying there. Who can stand living in the heart of the city? Is it fun to listen to gunfights every night?" She asked Zhao Liangza, "Why are you here?" Zhao Liangza smiled and did not answer Bai Shuang's question. He only said, "Where do you live?" "I'll take you there. You can put me down here. I still have to participate in the event." Bai Shuang didn't say where she lived. Seeing that Zhao Liangza didn't even answer her question, she felt even more bored and patted the car door. "As for where I live, you don't have to worry about it." Zhao Liangza held the steering wheel with one hand and stopped the car on the side of the road. His other hand reached over and rested on the passenger seat where Bai Shuang was sitting. He frowned and said, "Bai Shuang, let's talk." "What's there to talk about?" Bai Shuang still turned her head away and didn't look at him. "My cousin is your girlfriend and now you're provoking me again. Do you think I'm cheap so you came to bully me?" "Bai Shuang," Zhao Liangza shouted. "I was wrong just now. You don't have to say that about yourself. I'm cheap. I'm cheap. Is that enough?" "What do you mean by that?" Bai Shuang turned her head and looked at him angrily. "You're the cheap one." When she liked him, he kept her distance. When she was about to let go, he leaned in again. "It was me." Zhao Liangza pursed his lips. "I let your cousin down." "Haha, now you think of letting your girlfriend down. Zhao Liangza, you're good." Bai Shuang laughed at Zhao Liangza's words. "Unfortunately, if you want to be the person who betrays her, don't ask me to cooperate with you. I won't be willing to be cheap with you. Are you done talking?" Zhao Yangze was angered by Bai Shuang's words. He let go of the steering wheel and rushed in front of Bai Shuang. He grabbed her shoulder and said angrily, "Since the day you saw me with your cousin, I haven't seen her again." Only then did he remember that he was also on a mission. It was taboo to run into an acquaintance while on a mission. Either he had to think of a reasonable reason immediately, or he had to report it to his superiors. Zhao Yangze looked extremely conflicted for a moment. But in Bai Shuang's eyes she felt that Zhao Yangze was still wavering between her and her sister. She was furious. "Let go of me." Bai Shuang's face darkened. "I'll pretend nothing happened. You don't have to be conflicted and I won't keep you company. Get out." She pushed Zhao Yangze away, turned around and found the handle on the car door. She pushed it outward and the door opened. She breathed a sigh of relief and quickly got out of the car. She immediately hailed a taxi and went to the convention center in front. Zhao Yangze couldn't explain, but he couldn't ignore it. After thinking for a long time he called Hua Xiaoheng. "Hua Xiao." The phone rang for a while before Hua Xiaoheng picked up. "Little Zay? What's wrong? What's the matter?" "It's like this." Zhao Yangze gritted his teeth. "On my way back I saw someone's phone being robbed, so I went to help and got her phone back. In the end, that person was Bai Shuang." As soon as Zhao Yangze said it, Hua Xiaoheng understood. It wasn't like he would be a busybody just because he saw someone's phone being robbed, right? He must have seen that the person was Bai Shuang or looked like Bai Shuang, so he went to help get the phone back. Hua Xiaoheng chuckled. "What's wrong? Isn't it a good thing to meet an old friend in a foreign land? Why do you sound unhappy?" "I kissed her," Zhao Yangze said sullenly. "Then she scolded me and we parted on bad terms." Hua Xiaoheng should have sympathized with him, but a smile climbed uncontrollably onto his cheeks. He wore a Bluetooth headset and made seafood fried rice for Gunyanji in the kitchen in front of the induction cooker. He said casually, "You deserve to be scolded, but I should actually slap you." "That's not what I meant." Zhao Yangze was so distressed that he was incoherent. "Actually, what I meant was that she knew I left on a mission and then she saw me here." Hua Xiaoheng's hand paused. He put down the spatula and walked to the door. Looking at the vast blue Atlantic Ocean, his mind raced as he said, "Tell me honestly, what exactly did you say to her? Don't leave out a single word. Do you hear me?" "Yes, Chief." Zhao Yangze was shocked and quickly repeated the conversation he had with Bai Shuang just now without missing a word. When he recounted the debate between him and Bai Shuang about "you're cheap or I'm cheap," Hua Xiaoheng was speechless. "You two are so childish." Hua Xiaoheng calmly turned back, turned off the fire and scooped out the seafood fried rice. He made a decision and said to Zhao Yangze, "Then what do you think? Are you going to choose between two girlfriends? You can't have a foot in both boats." Zhao Yangze reflexively retorted, "Bai Yueran and I aren't considered boyfriend and girlfriend yet." "No, I thought you guys had already decided." Hua Xiaoheng took out the steak he had just bought and fried it in the pan with butter. The sound of sizzling rang out in the kitchen, accompanied by the aroma of butter that spread throughout the hall. Gunyanji went to her room to clean up, took a shower and changed into a summer t-shirt and hot pants. She walked out of the room with her long legs bare. She almost followed the aroma of food to the kitchen. "Hua Xiao, dinner is ready?" Gunyanji was delighted to see a bowl of seafood fried rice placed on the dining table in the dining room. The dining room and kitchen were actually a suite with the kitchen inside and the dining room outside. Through the large floor-to-ceiling windows she could still see the white spots on the sea. The afterglow of the setting sun and the sparkling seawater were like pieces of gold dancing in her eyes. Occasionally, one or two dolphins could be seen leaping high from the bottom of the sea and naughtily chasing each other on the surface. "It's so beautiful here." Gunyanji sighed. She was so fascinated by the view that she didn't even care to eat her favorite seafood fried rice. Hua Xiaoheng heard movement and turned to see that Gunyanji had already arrived. His gaze lingered on her long bare legs for a moment. Zhao Yangze was still yelling over the phone. "We didn't make a deal. I just kissed her and you sent me to this godforsaken island. We didn't even have time to say anything." Hua Xiaoheng withdrew his gaze and turned to Zhao Yangze on the other end of the phone. "Little Zay, you have to resolve the matter between Bai Shuang and Bai Yueran as soon as possible. Are you still a man if you procrastinate? You have to be honest and don't play tricks. Be careful of your style problems and no one can save you if that happens." Zhao Yangze's heart trembled when he heard this and he quickly said, "Hua Xiao, I don't have that kind of guts. I really like Bai Shuang. I'll make it clear to Bai Yueran after the mission." Zhao Yangze was also stunned when he heard this. So this was what he really meant and his true feelings. He had pursued love for so long, but he had never recognized his own heart. Rationally, he knew that Bai Yueran was a better partner, but emotionally, he couldn't help but favor Bai Shuang, and he couldn't even control it. Hua Xiaoheng flipped the steak in the pan and fried it until it was medium done. He said, "But if you want to be with Bai Shuang, do you only want to date her once or do you want to marry her?" Zhao Yangzi asked. "Is there a difference?" "Of course there is." Hua Xiaoheng said bluntly, "You know what crime Bai Shuang's father committed, right? Such a person can't pass the background check. Do you know to what extent Big Xiong's fiancée Ma Qiqi went through the background check?" "To what extent?" Zhao Yangzi was nervous and felt like he couldn't breathe. How could he have forgotten about the background check? For generations, all relatives within 5 years. Zhao Yangzi's heart sank. If he decided to be with Bai Shuang and marry her, she would definitely not pass the background check. Then he could only retire from the army. Although if he retired from the army he could easily find another job. He could even not look for a job and directly start his own company. With his computer skills he could be very successful no matter what he did. But he didn't want to retire from the army. He liked his current job very much. He liked it so much that this job was worthy of being the first in his heart. If anything conflicted with this job he would give up other things and keep this job. But now it was Bai Shuang who conflicted with his job. She was the first woman he truly fell in love with in his 28 years of life. On one side was the important task of protecting the country, and on the other side was the lover he loved. How should he choose? This is the first update of the day, Chapter 1188, Choice. Today is the second day of October's double monthly votes. Everyone hurry up and cast your guaranteed monthly votes. The second update will be at 1 p.m., and the third update will be at 8 p.m. P.S. Thank you to the leader, I am Master Rashi, for tipping 100,000 Chidian coins yesterday. Thank you to the leader, Enigma Yangxi, for tipping 10,000 Chidian coins yesterday. Moi. Chapter 1198. Zhao Yangzi held the phone in his hand, speechless. Hua Xiaoheng didn't rush him and continued frying his steak. When the steak was done, Zhao Yangzi muttered, "I need to think about it." Hua Xiaoheng pursed his lips and said expressionlessly, "You still want to? I think you should stop thinking about it. If you think too much, you'll get dizzy the moment you see Bai Shuang. If this happened in ancient times, you would be a muddle-headed ruler." Zhao Yangzi was already feeling gloomy, but when he heard Hua Xiaoheng's words, he immediately exploded and said indignantly, "How can I be a fatuous ruler? At most, he's a sycophant." He narrowed his eyes unkindly. "Are you saying that I'm a fatuous ruler?" Zhao Yangzi chuckled. "Whoever said that knows. I didn't say anything. Hua Xiao, how could you be a fatuous ruler in ancient times? You are the kind of person with great wisdom, courage, and unparalleled resourcefulness. The regent. I'm your elite soldier. Since he could joke around, he should be fine." Hua Xiaoheng didn't want his subordinates to work with emotions. He smiled and said, "All right, I'll wait for my elite soldiers to help me expand my territory. All right, it's getting late, you should go back." Zhao Yangzi was about to agree when he suddenly remembered something and said, "Mr. Hua, Bai Shuang also seems to be staying in a hotel in the wealthy district in the suburbs. I'm worried that you'll meet." There were only 2 upper-class hotels in Cape Town, some in the city center and the rest in the wealthy suburbs. Just now, Zhao Yangzi had tried to find out where Bai Shuang lived, and Bai Shuang had clearly said that she didn't live in the city center, so she could only live in the same district as Hua Xiaoheng and the others. Although this district was huge, no one knew if they would meet again. Hua Xiaoheng thought about it. "Go back to the island first and arrange your work for the next few days. Bring your luggage to me tomorrow morning. Let's discuss our next step." "Yes, Chief." Zhao Yangzi quickly agreed and drove to the harbor. He got on his yacht and drove back to the island. After spending a few months in this place, not only had Zhao Yangzi's driving skills improved tremendously, but his ability to sail a boat had also improved tremendously. Hua Xiaoheng turned off his Bluetooth headset and carried his plate to the dining room. Gunyinji's seafood fried rice was still untouched on the dining table. She propped her head up with her hand and stared out the French windows at the seascape. Hua Xiaoheng sat down across from her and knocked on the table with a smile. "Let's eat. We'll watch after that." Gunyinji rubbed her temples and turned to look at Hua Xiaoheng with a smile. "Are you done with the call? Is Brother Zhe? Did he meet Bai Shuang?" Hua Xiaoheng didn't want to hide it from her, so he nodded and shook his head as he cut the steak for himself. Little Zhe isn't as straightforward as Big Xiong. He's a drag when it comes to relationships. Gunyinji was speechless. Is this what you call being sloppy about a relationship? She pouted and scooped herself a small bowl of fried rice with a spoon. Brother Zay is his first love. It's normal for him to not realize who he likes. How is this a drag? Hua Xiaoheng glanced at her and remembered her first love, class rep, Mei Xiaowen. His eyes flashed, but he didn't want to argue with her about this. He quietly changed the topic. Actually, I don't care who they're dating, but as their superior, I have an obligation to remind them of the conditions for marriage. Conditions? Gun Yinji frowned. What conditions? Background check. People like us have to submit a marriage report for approval before we can go through the formalities. Hua Xiaoheng looked at her and smiled. Big Xiong's marriage application is still lying in my office. Oh. Gun Yinji was surprised. Is there a problem with Chi-Chi's background check? It shouldn't be, right? Yes, there's no problem with her. We checked 4 generations of her family as well as relatives within 5 generations. If her immediate family has a criminal record, her background check will be rejected immediately. If a non-immediate family member has a criminal record, it needs to be reported, but it won't affect the approval. Gun Yinji suddenly understood. I understand. Bai Shuang definitely can't do it because her father committed treason. TSK Brother Zay really likes challenges. Bai Yueran doesn't have that much trouble. She's now the Prime Minister's daughter. Bai Shuang's father was only Bai Yueran's uncle, so he was not an immediate family member. Bai Yuxing's crime wouldn't affect Bai Yueran. Bai Yueran had personally reported Bai Yuxing's eradication. This was a major meritorious act and also a plus for her. Bai Shuang was different. She knew her father had committed treason, but she didn't report him. She even met up with her father and lived abroad for a period of time. This was almost like an accomplice, so she would lose points. In short, although their criteria for background checks were only the immediate family members, all the circumstances of non-immediate family members also needed to be investigated and recorded. Hua Xiaoheng slowly explained the content and criteria of the background check to Gun Yinji. When the two of them ate, they always followed the principle of don't talk while eating, don't talk while sleeping. But living in this apartment-style hotel, the scenery outside was too beautiful, and the atmosphere was too harmonious. Hua Xiaoheng wasn't so strict with Gun Yinji. But after Gun Yinji asked, she didn't speak again. Her big eyes flickered and she silently ate her favorite seafood fried rice. The service department they lived in had a kitchen that could cook, and there was a supermarket nearby where they could buy fresh ingredients and cooking spices. After Zhao Liangzi left, the two of them went to the supermarket to buy daily necessities for a few days, as well as drinking water, semi-finished ingredients and rice. Hua Xiaoheng's cooking skills were indisputable. Gun Yinji ate 3 bowls in one go before reluctantly putting down the bowl and chopsticks. I'm full. Hua Xiao, do you want coffee or tea? Gun Yinji stood up and went to the kitchen to make a drink. Hua Xiaoheng looked at his watch. It wasn't yet 6 o'clock, so it was still early. It wasn't time to sleep. Give me a cup of mocha, no sugar needed. Hua Xiaoheng took the plates to the kitchen dishwasher and turned on the automatic mode to let the dishwasher do its job. He went to the balcony outside and sat down. He picked up the local English newspaper provided by the apartment and began reading. Gun Yinji found the coffee machine and studied it for a while before making a cup of mocha and a cup of cappuccino. She placed the 2 coffee cups on the tray and placed the mocha in front of Hua Xiaoheng. Hua Xiao, try this. I made it myself. Mocha was a drink made by mixing coffee and cocoa powder. It wasn't pure black coffee, so drinking it wouldn't cause insomnia. Hua Xiaoheng picked it up and tasted it. He nodded with satisfaction. Not bad. Gun Yinji drank the cappuccino and kept her eyes on Hua Xiaoheng's face. Hua Xiaoheng looked at the newspaper nonchalantly and said calmly, "You have something to say?" Gun Yinji was speechless. She originally wanted to deny it, but when she thought that she did have something to say, she could only rub her nose awkwardly and whisper, "Hua Xiao, you can even handle my background check. Can't you help Brother Zay?" She had already signed the marriage contract with Hua Xiaoheng, which meant that the previous conditions should have been met. The most important of those conditions was the background check. Gun Yinji knew her own situation. Just the father's whereabouts alone could make her background check stuck at this stage. If she couldn't pass the background check, she and Hua Xiaoheng could forget about getting married. However, deep down, Gun Yinji still didn't approve of this wedding, so she hadn't thought much about it before. Hua Xiaoheng had used Gun Yinji's background check as a condition to bargain with the military bosses before agreeing to go to New York to save Tangueran. Faced with Gun Yinji's request, Hua Xiaoheng pursed his lips and said calmly, "No one in your family has a criminal record, so your situation isn't difficult to investigate. However, Bai Shuang's situation is different. Her and her father's situation is more complicated, so I can't guarantee it. The only one with a criminal record was Gu Yanran, but she didn't even have adoption papers. Hua Xiaoheng wouldn't recognize Gu Yanran as Gu Nianji's immediate family. Is that so? Gu Nianji's eyes flashed with some regret. Actually, Bai Shuang is not bad. Hua Xiaoheng smiled and said, I'm sitting here but you only care about others. Nianji, you really know how to waste time. This was the second night watch for the day, chapter 1189, Wasting Time. Today was the second day of the double monthly votes for October. Everyone hurry up and vote for your guaranteed monthly votes. Today was also Monday, so everyone forgot their recommendation tickets. It was 8 o'clock at night. Mwah. Chapter 1199. A waste of time? Gu Nianji looked at Hua Xiaoheng with a face full of question marks. Hua Xiaoheng put one hand on her shoulder and pulled her over. He leaned over and kissed her on the lips. His deep voice was slightly hoarse as he said, So this is what cappuccino tastes like. Gu Nianji suddenly realized that she couldn't keep up with Hua Xiaoheng's train of thought. Is there a difference? Isn't it about the same as your mocha? Gu Nianji stammered as a tingling sensation swept over her plump lips. About the same? I think it's a long way off. Hua Xiaoheng spoke with his lips pressed against hers. Try mine if you don't believe me? Gu Nianji was bewitched by his low, husky voice. She involuntarily stuck out the tip of her tongue and stuck it on Hua Xiaoheng's lips before quickly retracting it. Cappuccino is coffee with vanilla, and mocha is coffee with black cocoa. Gu Nianji murmured and was caught off guard as Hua Xiaoheng swept his tongue into her lips again to taste the vanilla coffee. Gu Nianji's scalp tingled as he sucked on the tip of her tongue. She tried to push him away and said, That's enough. Not enough. Hua Xiaoheng chuckled in her ear. It's not enough no matter how much I eat. Let's go inside and continue eating. It was actually a very normal sentence, but when Hua Xiaoheng said it in such a manner and tone, it was truly indescribable. That night, Gu Nianji was repeatedly tasted by Hua Xiaoheng until dawn. Zhao Liangzi almost didn't sleep on the island all night. As soon as he closed his eyes, he remembered the kiss with Bai Shuang during the day. It was like he had finally gotten what he wanted after a long time, but it was also like he was caught off guard. He couldn't tell when his feelings for Bai Shuang had begun. He only knew that day in the parking lot, when Bai Yueran suddenly pounced on him and kissed him, he didn't feel excited at all. Instead, he felt like he had put an end to his year-long pursuit. He was like a traveler who had traveled a long distance on a pilgrimage, only to find that it wasn't the holy land he had hoped for when he reached the end. However, the kiss with Bai Shuang during the day made him want more. Not only was he so excited that he couldn't control himself, but he also wanted to continue. Perhaps love was like this. It seemed to require conditions to be piled up, but when it came to reality, it was completely uncontrolled by reason. The feeling of his body couldn't lie. And love, from the very beginning, was originally an attraction based on the nature of hormones. But to be with Bai Shuang forever, this was really not an ordinary difficulty. For a moment, Zhao Liangzi hated Bai Shuang's father, Bai Yuxing. When he fled to another country, did he think that his actions would not only harm the innocent field personnel, but also his only daughter? Because of him, Bai Shuang lost her job, and now she was about to lose her love. But then again, her situation was much better than those field personnel because she did not lose her life. For people, what could be more important than their lives? Thinking of this, Zhao Liangzi felt the uncontrollable excitement recede a little. Years of education and training in the military made him unable to remain indifferent to this kind of thing. Standing on the balcony of the room, facing the vast coastline, he smoked for the whole night. Early in the morning, a red sun emerged from the horizon, illuminating the entire sea in a flash. The dark clouds that had shrouded the night dispersed, revealing the blue sky and white clouds, clear water and red sun. Countless strong colors assaulted one's face, dazzling and almost making one colorblind. Zhao Liangzi had seen this scene many times, but every time he saw it, he couldn't help but marvel. But today, his mind was full of Bai Shuang, and he was distracted by the beautiful sunrise on the sea in front of him. A few seagulls flew by and cut through the sky in front of his eyes. Zhao Liangzi came back to his senses, threw the cigarette butt in his hand into the trash can in the corner of the balcony, and waved his fist at the sky a few times. Smelling the smell of smoke all over his body, he curled his lips in disgust and went back to his room to take a shower, change his clothes, and carry the suitcase he packed last night to find Hua Xiaoheng. At 7 o'clock in the morning, Gu Nianji was sleeping soundly in Hua Xiaoheng's arms. She had been exhausted again yesterday. Hua Xiaoheng opened his eyes and kissed her cheek with pity. I want to sleep, don't be noisy. Gu Nianji pushed him with her hand and tried to turn over, but Hua Xiaoheng held her in place and couldn't move. She struggled for a moment and found that she couldn't break free, so she gave up. Hua Xiaoheng let out a few low chuckles. The laughter was full of magnetism and plucked at Gu Nianji's heartstrings, comforting her even in her sleep. She gradually calmed down and relaxed her brows in the crook of Hua Xiaoheng's arm. Hua Xiaoheng massaged her legs, then her waist and finally her shoulders. Overwork required appropriate relaxation, and his physical strength was still a little unbearable for her. Gu Nianji slept even more deeply, and her breathing was soft and long. Her long eyelashes were like 2 rows of small fans, covering the faint bruises under her eyes. Hua Xiaoheng's heart softened uncontrollably. He leaned over and kissed her eyelids. His movements were gentle and delicate, like a dragonfly skimming the water. He didn't wake her up. Hua Xiaoheng took a deep breath, lifted the quilt and got out of bed. He went outside to swim 50 laps in the pool to vent his morning energy. He climbed out of the pool dripping wet, and the sun just happened to shine on him, enveloping his body in golden light. Hua Xiaoheng came out of the pool and went to the kitchen to make breakfast. He had just finished making breakfast when Gu Nianji finished washing up and came out. Zhao Yangzi also came with his suitcase. Hua Xiaoheng placed 3 sets of breakfast on the table and said dryly, "You two really know how to pick the right time." Zhao Yangzi and Gu Nianji looked at each other innocently and said inexplicably, "Doesn't everyone have breakfast at this time? You also have to pick the right time?" Yes, all the breakfast restaurants in the country open at this time." Hua Xiaoheng glanced at them. "You two are singing the same tune. You two have quite a good chemistry. Of course, don't you know whose apprentice she is?" Zhao Yangzi laughed heartily and seemed to be in a good mood. Gu Nianji also pursed her lips and smiled. She picked up the milk and took a sip, leaving a layer of white milk foam on her upper lip. Hua Xiaoheng casually picked up a tissue from the table and naturally wiped the milk foam on her upper lip. Gu Nianji didn't resist and casually tilted her head to let him wipe. Their actions were indescribably harmonious and loving. Zhao Yangzi threw away his knife and fork and said angrily, "I'm full just looking at the public display of affection so early in the morning. I'm not eating, I'm going for a morning run." There was a piece of toast that had just been baked on his plate, but he only ate 1 bite before putting it down. Coming out of the small courtyard of the apartment-style hotel where Hua Xiaoheng and Gu Nianji were staying, the air was fresh and the temperature was neither too hot nor too cold. Zhao Yangzi decided to go for a morning run first. He took long strides and ran around the sidewalk of the hotel area. Not long after, a woman in a red tracksuit also ran over from the other side of the sidewalk. The two brushed past each other on the road and stopped at the same time. "It's you? It's you? What a coincidence, we meet again," Zhao Yangzi said faintly as he looked at Bai Shuang in front of him and narrowed his eyes. This was the 3rd update of the day, chapter 1190, What a Coincidence. Today was the 2nd day of the double monthly votes for October, so everyone should quickly cast their guaranteed monthly votes. Today was also Monday, so everyone had forgotten their recommended votes. Moi. Chapter 1200. Bai Shuang had wanted to greet him, but when she saw Zhao Yangzi's attitude, she turned around and continued running, pretending not to see him. When Zhao Yangzi saw this, he ran backwards and ran alongside Bai Shuang. He smiled and said, "Are you angry? I was just expressing my surprise. Cape Town is so big, but we met twice in 2 days. If it's not fate, then what is it?" Bai Shuang frowned. She didn't even look at him as she coldly said, "I'm not worthy. You'd better stay away and let me have a good morning run." As she spoke, she quickened her running speed. Zhao Yangzi ran backwards. Of course, he couldn't run as fast as Bai Shuang, so he quickly fell behind. He didn't want to chase after her. He turned around and slowly changed from running to walking. He stared at the red figure in front of him in a daze. When Bai Shuang was out of his sight, Zhao Yangzi suddenly stopped in his tracks. His eyes seemed to be scanning his surroundings. In mid-April, the weather in Cape Town was gradually getting warmer. The afforestation of this wealthy hotel area was done very well. There were green trees everywhere. The scorching sun burned the sky, and thick shadows covered the ground. However, there was no chirping of cicadas. Only the occasional chirping of birds could be heard, making the surroundings seem even quieter. Occasionally, a few Caucasians in sports vests and shorts would run past him and wave the mineral water bottles in their hands at him as a greeting. Zhao Yangzi nodded with a smile and turned to leave. In the restaurant of the apartment-style hotel where they were staying, there was still a portion of breakfast left on the table. Zhao Liangzi had only taken a bite of toast when he went out that morning. Now that he saw the yellow scrambled eggs and the brown bacon, he couldn't help but feel hungry. When one was hungry, everything was delicious. He sat at the dining table and ate all the breakfast on the table before taking the plates to the kitchen to wash the dishes. Wu Xiaoheng and Gu Nianji sat on the sofa in the living room. It was such a long sofa, yet the two of them had to squeeze together. It was really unsightly. Wu Xiaoheng held Gu Nianji in his arms and turned to watch her play games on her phone. The corners of Zhao Liangzi's mouth twitched as he sat down across from them. He reached out and knocked on the coffee table in front of him. "Hey you two. It's broad daylight. Watch your manners." Wu Xiaoheng looked up at him. "Didn't you go for a morning jog? It's only been a few minutes and he can't run anymore? Good for nothing." "I encountered a special situation." Zhao Liangzi slammed his fist on the coffee table and frowned angrily. "Guess who I just saw? Don't tell me you saw Bai Shuang again." Gu Nianji was playing games on her phone and didn't even raise her head to retort Zhao Liangzi. Zhao Liangzi said, "Prophet, please accept this humble bow." Gu Nianji looked up from her phone game and said in surprise, "It's really Bai Shuang." Wu Xiaoheng also glanced at Zhao Liangzi. "What a coincidence." "Yes, what a coincidence. Tell me, don't you think I'm more fated with her?" Zhao Liangzi clicked his tongue. "That's why I hurried back to inform you. Wu Xiao, you still haven't said what we should do." Bai Shuang discovered Zhao Liangzi. To prevent Bai Shuang from finding out about Zhao Liangzi's secret mission on the island, Wu Xiaoheng asked Zhao Liangzi to move in with them. In this way, if she found out, she could say that she was here to accompany them on vacation. However, Wu Xiaoheng had disguised himself and didn't use his original appearance. If Bai Shuang found out, Wu Xiaoheng would also be exposed. Gu Nianji wasn't in the mood to continue playing games. She exited the program and turned off her phone. She looked at Wu Xiaoheng and then at Zhao Liangzi. "What should we do? Should the three of us split up?" "No." Zhao Liangzi and Wu Xiaoheng objected together. Gu Nianji pushed Wu Xiaoheng away a little and sat in the corner next to him. She propped her hands on the soft sofa cushion and crossed her long legs. She said disapprovingly, "Then what should we do? Why don't we let Bai Shuang find out? I don't think she's a bad person, so she should be fine." Bai Shuang used to be a relatively high-ranking official in the Wuxia Empire's government, so she still had a sense of confidentiality. Although her father, Bai Yuxing, had committed a crime, she hadn't. But what if she accidentally spilled the beans? Zhao Liangzi was also distressed. He always felt that their meeting was too coincidental. Both of them had left the country and they clearly didn't know each other's whereabouts, but they had met twice in a row in a foreign country thousands of miles away. If this was really fate, Zhao Liangzi felt like he could go buy a lottery ticket. Wu Xiaoheng fully acknowledged Zhao Liangzi's vigilance. "Little Zhe, it's really commendable that you haven't been blinded by the beauty of a woman at a time like this." Wu Xiaoheng nodded at him and praised him with a half-smile. "The military has trained you for so many years and it wasn't for nothing. Wu Xiao, you're just praising yourself for having good taste." Gu Nianji smiled from the side and ridiculed Wu Xiaoheng. "Who praises themselves like that?" Wu Xiaoheng leaned back on the sofa and crossed his arms in front of his chest. The corners of his lips curled up slightly. "I'm telling the truth. If little Zhe goes on like this, I can rest assured letting him be independent." The corners of Zhao Liangzi's lips twitched. "Wu Xiao, I thought I'd been independent for months." That desolate and uninhabited island was developed bit by bit under his leadership. They could use their own Nandu communication satellite system to access the internet here without worrying about information leakage because of the base station Zhao Liangzi had set up on the island. Wu Xiaoheng smiled at him without agreeing or refuting. He turned to Gu Nianji and said thoughtfully, "Little Zhe, if you meet Bai Shuang for the third time, you might as well tell her that you're here on vacation with Nianji and acting as her security guard. Tell her to keep it a secret and not tell anyone." Wu Xiaoheng would hide in the dark and observe in secret. He would also find the specific location that Gu Xiangwen's poem referred to. If Bai Shuang really had ulterior motives, he would know who she was going to deal with. Perhaps the person she was going to deal with was Wu Xiaoheng, but Wu Xiaoheng had automatically solved the problem by hiding in the dark. Perhaps the person she was going to deal with was Gu Nianji. It was conceivable that Gu Nianji's whereabouts would be leaked by her. But Wu Xiaoheng was also an expert in anti-tracking. If there really was someone behind Bai Shuang, Wu Xiaoheng could guarantee that they would stay in Cape Town forever. He had always been very bold. Wu Xiaoheng told him the plan, and Zhao Liangzi's expression stiffened. "There's Someone behind Bai Shuang? He emotionally refused to accept this conclusion. Hua Xiaoheng raised his eyelids and glanced at him. I only said it's possible. As for whether this speculation is true or not, it still depends on how Bai Shuang acts. It was best for them to worry unnecessarily, but if there was a 1 in a million possibility that Bai Shuang's purpose in approaching Zhao Liangzi this time wasn't simple, Hua Xiaoheng and the others wouldn't be passively attacked. Gun Yanji frowned. Are we really going to do this? Then Hua Xiao, are you moving away? Since he was going to hide in the dark, he couldn't live with them, right? Hua Xiaoheng shook his head with a chuckle. No, I'm not moving away. But you said that little Zay is here to accompany me on vacation. If you don't move away, how are you going to live? Gun Yanji blinked, confused. In addition to the living room, dining room and small living room, this apartment-style hotel also had a master bedroom and 2 guest rooms. One guest room was arranged as a study and an audio-visual room, so there were actually only 2 bedrooms that could be lived in. If Zhao Liangzi's identity changed to accompany Gun Yanji on vacation, then Hua Xiaoheng couldn't continue to live here. Gun Yanji didn't want to be separated from Hua Xiaoheng. It wasn't easy for them to have the opportunity to be alone together. Even if they were on a mission together, Gun Yanji still cherished such time together. Hua Xiaoheng enjoyed Gun Yanji's attachment and reluctance to leave him. He wasn't afraid of her making a fuss, nor was he afraid of her making a fuss. He was most afraid that she wouldn't make a fuss with him, wouldn't rely on him and wouldn't be reluctant to leave him. He smiled and teased Gun Yanji with his eyes. Little Zay will stay in the guest room and I'll stay with you. Gun Yanji? Didn't you stay with me last night? Was there a need to say it in front of Zhao Liangzi? Zhao Liangzi? Hua Xiao was so cunning. He was using him as a shield to find the theoretical basis to legally move into Gun Yanji's bedroom. Hua Xiaoheng turned a blind eye to their dumbfounded expressions. He stood up from the sofa and said, It's decided. My luggage was in Yanji's room last night anyway, so there's no need to trouble to take it out. Zhao Liangzi rolled his eyes and fell straight back on the sofa. He died with his eyes wide open. I'm already dead. Then he added, I'll choke on your dog food. Gun Yanji's fair little face instantly blushed. She couldn't help but glare at Hua Xiaoheng, but in Hua Xiaoheng's eyes, her eyes were sparkling and tender, making him unable to help but feel restless. Come, help me pack my luggage. Hua Xiaoheng walked to Gun Yanji's side and pulled her up, almost half dragging her back to the bedroom. Only then did Zhao Liangzi slowly get up from the sofa. He carried his suitcase to the only room that could be occupied and settled down. There was a natural advantage to Hua Xiaoheng's plan. This apartment-style hotel was originally booked for them under Zhao Liangzi's name. When they checked in, Zhao Liangzi also helped them check in. He used some tricks so the front desk was responsible for checking. The people at IN didn't check Hua Xiaoheng and Gun Yanji's documents at all. This way, even if there was something wrong with Bai Shuang, the people behind her wouldn't know that Hua Xiaoheng had checked in. Of course, it was best if there was nothing wrong with Bai Shuang. Otherwise, Hua Xiaoheng also had hidden concerns. If this matter wasn't handled well, he would lose one of his most powerful right-hand men. Gun Yanji was dragged by Hua Xiaoheng all the way back to the master bedroom. After entering the room, she shook off his hand and said angrily, You're staying here with me. Don't tell me other people don't know? When we checked in yesterday, not many people saw us. I'll pretend to be a driver today and leave first. I'll sneak back in the dead of night. Hua Xiaoheng carried Gun Yanji to the bed and sat down. Leave the window open for me. You're going to climb in through the window? Gun Yanji was so shocked that she didn't even notice what Hua Xiaoheng's hand was doing. This is the first night watch for the day, Chapter 1191, Choked to Death by Public Display of Affection. Today is the 3rd day of October's double monthly votes. Everyone hurry up and cast your guaranteed monthly votes. Second night watch at 1 p.m. Third night watch at 8 p.m. Mwax. Chapter 1201. Zhao Liangzi quickly packed his luggage in the guest room and arranged his things as if he were staying at home. He carefully thought about everything that had happened since he met Bai Shuang, as well as Bai Shuang's personality and temper. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that Hua Xiaoheng was worrying too much. Bai Shuang wasn't that kind of person. She wouldn't do what her father did. Zhao Liangzi felt that his judgment was right. He raked his hair hard and went out to find Hua Xiaoheng to talk about it again. However, when he pushed the door of the master bedroom, it was closed tightly in broad daylight. It was obvious what was going on inside. Zhao Liangzi sneered and thought to himself that Hua Xiaoheng was intoxicated by his gentleness. Why couldn't he and Bai Shuang really be fated? Of course, he rationally admitted that Hua Xiaoheng's approach was the right one. In their line of work, they actually didn't have that much time and energy for romance. Amorous affair looked extremely beautiful, but every minute and every second could be filled with murderous intent. His mind was a mess. Hua Xiaoheng was busy now and probably didn't have the time to care about him. He simply went back to the guest room and changed into swimming trunks. He wanted to swim in the pool in the yard. As soon as he came to the yard, he saw a woman in a red dress swaying over before he had time to go into the water. This time her red dress was different. The front was tightly wrapped, but the back was wide open. Her long hair fluttered behind her, blocking the view behind her. But whenever her long hair fluttered in the wind, he could see the view behind her. Zhao Liang's heart sank, but his expression didn't change. He first sent a text message to Hua Xiaoheng to tell him that Bai Shuang had arrived, then slowly walked over to the white courtyard gate that was half the height of a person. He whistled at the woman in the red dress who walked over gracefully. "Beauty, would you like to come in for a cup of tea?" The woman in the red dress turned her head. It was Bai Shuang. She frowned and looked unhappy. "Zhao Liangzi, tell me the truth. Were you stalking me?" "Zhao Liangzi. I'm following you?" He looked back at his yard, crossed his arms and smiled lazily. "I live here, and you come to my door and say that I'm following you?" The glaring sunlight from the southern hemisphere shone on Zhao Liangzi's dark and shiny skin. It was as if he had been smeared with a layer of oil and was full of masculinity. Strangely enough, the first thing that attracted Bai Shuang to Zhao Liangzi was his fair, handsome and scholarly appearance. But now that she saw that he was much more robust, Bai Shuang didn't feel that his attractiveness had faded. Instead, he was even more attractive. Bai Shuang narrowed her eyes. "Didn't you know that I was staying here, so you specially booked a suite here to get close to me?" "Zhao Liangzi. Do you really live here? When did you move in?" Zhao Liangzi asked suspiciously. "I booked a room here a long time ago." Bai Shuang sneered and pointed at him more and more. "Go and check it yourself. See when I moved in. Don't look at me like that. It's obvious that you wanted to time me. Don't lie to yourself." Zhao Liangzi leaned against the white courtyard door that was half the height of a person and smiled at Bai Shuang. "You really don't want to come in and sit? There's coffee. I'll make it for you." Bai Shuang pondered for a while and put her hand on her forehead to look at the road ahead. She muttered to herself, "It's still early. I don't have anything to do today, come on then." Zhao Liangzi grabbed Bai Shuang's hand and pushed open the white courtyard door that was half the height of a person. "Are you wearing a swimsuit? Let's swim together?" Bai Shuang rolled her eyes. "Swim together? Your swimming pool is only the size of a fart. Don't you know? If you want to swim, you can swim by yourself. I still have something to do. Excuse me." With that, she walked forward with her head held high. Zhao Liangzi didn't stop her, nor did he point out the contradiction in her words. He just continued leaning against the white courtyard door that was half the height of a person and watched Bai Shuang walk away with a smile. It wasn't until he saw Bai Shuang enter the door next to theirs that the smile on Zhao Liangzi's face faded. This time he wanted to swim even more. Walking back with his head down, Zhao Liangzi jumped into the swimming pool and swam without a care. In Gu Nianji's bedroom, Hua Xiaoheng saw Zhao Liangzi's text message before he finished. At that moment, he decided that he would never put his phone on the bedside table again. Because Bai Shuang was coming, Hua Xiaoheng had to leave immediately, but at this time he felt even more that he couldn't leave. Everything about Gu Nianji made him addicted, but the time they spent together was always so short, so he turned it into action and expressed his reluctance to part with her. Hua Xiaoheng left in a hurry. Gu Nianji quickly packed all of Hua Xiaoheng's things into her suitcase and locked them in a padlocked closet. Then she went to the bathroom to take a shower. After showering, she came out to pick out clothes to change into. This time, Hua Xiaoheng had left too many marks on her body. The short-sleeved t-shirt and hot pants she had worn in the morning couldn't be worn anymore. Gu Nianji had to choose a belly-band dress to wear and a small short-sleeved silk cardigan to cover her arms and back. This dress was ankle-length and was the so-called maxi dress. She wore flip-flops with this kind of maxi dress. It looked best in a seashore photo shoot. Gu Nianji spun around in front of the mirror and pushed open the bedroom door with her hair half wet. The living room was quiet and there was no one there. Gu Nianji felt a bit strange. Hua Xiaoheng had just shown her his phone. It was a text message from Zhao Liangzi. Where did he go? Did he go to the guest room where Zhao Liangzi was staying to chat? Gu Nianji thought about it and knocked on the guest room door. "Brother Zhe?" The room was quiet and there was no sound at all. Gu Nianji was puzzled and simply turned the door handle with her hand. She heard a creak and the door actually opened. Zhao Yangzi hadn't locked the door. Gu Nianji peeked into the guest room and saw that there was no one inside. Where did he go? Gu Nianji closed the guest room door and walked out of the living room. She stood at the door. There was only the sound of rushing water in the yard and a dark, shiny figure wandering in the blue water. It was really beautiful. But there was only one person. Gu Nianji lifted her dress and walked out quietly to the pool. She saw that there was only one person swimming in the pool. It was Zhao Yangzi. She looked around but didn't see anyone else. Gu Nianji sat down on the rattan lounge chair by the pool and called Zhao Yangzi. Brother Zhe, where is she? Zhao Yangzi felt uncomfortable and swam back and forth more than a dozen times in one go. When he heard someone call him, he looked up and saw Gu Nianji standing by the pool. He nodded at her. Who's here? Who are you looking for? Bai Shuang, didn't you text to say that she was here? Today's second night watch, chapter 1192, swimming together. Today is the third day of the double monthly votes for October. Everyone hurry up and vote for your guaranteed monthly votes. 8 o'clock p.m. the third night watch. Moi. Chapter 1202. Bai Shuang? Zhao Yangzi also dove to the bottom of the pool, then floated up again, his arms splashing water. Gu Nianji quickly took a step back to avoid being splashed. Zhao Yangzi wiped his face and climbed out of the pool. He sat on the edge of the pool and looked at the blue water. He frowned and said, She didn't come in. She left. Left? Where did she go? Gu Nianji looked at Zhao Yangzi's expression and carefully comforted him. Brother Zhe, maybe you two are really fated. Zhao Yangzi nodded with a bitter expression. Yes, we are fated. Doom. Gu Nianji saw that Zhao Yangzi was in a bad mood, so she quickly changed the subject. Brother Zhe, are we going out today? Are there any fun places to introduce? Zhao Yangzi perked up and introduced Gu Nianji to the tourist attractions in Cape Town. This place is near the sea and most of the attractions are related to the bay. For example, we are familiar with the Cape of Good Hope, Penguin Bay, Seal Island, and by the way, the Stellenbosch wine manor here is very famous. The wine in the cellar is worth a taste. Gu Nianji listened carefully and didn't think there was anything special. Although they had arrived at the place indicated on the map, Cape Town wasn't a small city. Finding the data that Gu Xiangwen had hidden here was like looking for a needle in a haystack. Gu Nianji lowered her head dejectedly. What's wrong? Are you unhappy? Zhao Yangzi tilted his head to look at her. I'm not unhappy. Why are you unhappy? He then teased her. Is it because Alex left? If something went wrong outside, they wouldn't call each other by their real names. Alex was Hua Xiaoheng's alias when he was on a mission outside. Gu Nianji rolled her eyes at him. Please, we are here for serious business. Can you not smile so wretchedly? How am I smiling wretchedly? I was smiling from ear to ear. Zhao Yangzi sat on the edge of the pool, his strong long legs splashing in the water as he teased Gu Nianji with a smile. Gu Nianji snickered and her depressed mood quickly improved. She stood up and waved her hand in the air. All right, no matter what, let's go out for a walk first. Who knows, there might be light at the end of the tunnel. It's better than thinking about it here. Zhao Yangzi nodded. That's right. Let's go get changed. I'll just wear this. Gu Nianji looked at herself. The maxi dress covered her legs tightly, and the short-sleeved cardigan covered half of her arms. It was very good and it was very effective against the sun. She didn't even need to apply sunscreen. In the end, Gu Nianji only applied sunscreen to her face, neck and exposed arms and hands. She put on a pair of large sunglasses and a flirtatious, wide-brimmed mesh hat. She also applied Dior Addict lipstick to her lips. Her fair and tender face was immediately lit up by her beautiful red lips. Zhao Yangzi had changed into a tropical short-sleeved shirt and baggy shorts. He was also wearing a pair of running shoes and a pair of sunglasses. His earlier handsomeness was nowhere to be seen. He looked like a bodyguard or a driver. Gu Nianji wanted to laugh again. Brother Zhe, you don't look good with me like this. Someone will be anxious if I look good with you. Zhao Yangzi winked at her. I need to know my place. Gu Nianji blushed and pinched Zhao Yangzi's arm hard. Don't talk nonsense. It's not like that. Fine, fine, fine. I won't tease you anymore. Zhao Yangzi laughed heartily and left with Gu Nianji. He took Gu Nianji to the khaki jeep that was as sturdy as a tank from yesterday and drove to the city. They were at a man-made bay that had been developed. It was completely different from the natural bays that retained their natural beauty. They had to drive through the city to reach the scenic spot. Gu Nianji sat in the front passenger seat of the jeep and looked along the way. As she looked, the scenery on the side of the road went from neat and orderly, clean and beautiful to messy, dirty and ugly. The closer they got to the city, the more obvious it became. Gun Yanji sighed. Who knows what this country has been through in the past decade? Yeah. Zhao Liangzi nonchalantly honked the horn to avoid a black man who was crossing the road. This used to be a developed country. After that famous saint came to power and became president, he voluntarily removed nuclear weapons and forced the white people to give up their positions to the black people. He won the world's praise, but he turned a first-class developed country into the dirty, messy, and poor third-rate China. To build a country, it might take decades or even hundreds of years and generations of effort. But to destroy a country, it only took a few years. Haha, he didn't let the world down, but he let down his own people. Gun Yanji shook her head. It's not a good thing to be praised by the enemy. That's right. Zhao Liangzi laughed. Alex used to say that as long as we continue to be criticized by enemy countries, it means we are on the right path. If one day we are praised by enemy countries, then we have to be seriously vigilant. It must be that we are on the wrong path. Gun Yanji laughed so hard that tears came out of her eyes. Okay, we have a clear direction to go. Thanks to our peers. The two chatted and laughed and soon arrived at the city center. There were still some good buildings and attractions in the city center of Cape Town. Of course, it couldn't be compared to the wealthy hotel district they had just come from. If they had to compare, the wealthy hotel district was like the CBD of a big city in Wuxia, while the city center was like an 18th-tier small county 20 years ago. The buildings here are still very distinctive. Zhao Liangzi pointed to the 2 rows of red buildings on the side of the road to Gun Yanji. He was about to turn onto the main road to the harbor when he saw a woman in a red dress get out of a yellow taxi from the corner of his eye. Zhao Liangzi slammed on the brakes and Gun Yanji almost fell. What's wrong? You're right. I really have a fate with her. This is the 3rd chance encounter, Zhao Liangzi said faintly as he lifted his chin forward. Gun Yanji followed Zhao Liangzi's gaze and saw that the woman in the red dress had turned around and was facing them. It's Miss Bai? Gun Yanji's eyes widened. Brother Zhe, why do you run into her everywhere you go? I want to know too. Zhao Liangzi stepped on the accelerator and drove to the road in front of Bai Shuang. He lowered the window and Gun Yanji waved to Bai Shuang. Miss Bai. It was a familiar voice. Bai Shuang raised her head in astonishment and saw a woman wearing a wide-brimmed hat, revealing only a delicate chin and a pair of delicate lips. The woman was greeting her. Zhao Liangzi also leaned over from the window and smiled at Bai Shuang. Bai Shuang, we meet again. Since we're so fated, shall we go for a cup of coffee? Bai Shuang's eyes flickered. Yanji? It's just the 2 of you? Yes, I'm here on vacation with Yanji. What's wrong? You seem very disappointed. Who else do you want to see? Zhao Liangzi raised his eyebrows. We've met 3 times. 3 times is worth celebrating. Get in the car. There's a very good cafe up ahead. Today's 3rd night watch, chapter 1193, 3 times. Today is the 3rd day of October's double monthly votes. Everyone hurry up and cast your guaranteed monthly votes. 8 o'clock in the evening. Moi. Chapter 1203. Bai Shuang clenched the Chanel Lu Boy tightly in her hand. She hesitated for a moment, then opened the door and got into the car. Zhao Liangzi's face darkened, and he quickly drove to a well-known cafe on a nearby street. For this city, coffee was a new hot beverage. In the past, people here were used to drinking tea. Of course, it was English afternoon tea or morning tea. Now, there were all kinds of coffees. They weren't simple instant or instant coffee, but coffee with complicated procedures starting from the coffee beans. Gun Yanji got out of the car and looked up to see a postmodern cafe with a very chic decoration. The entire store was built with transparent glass, and the structural support inside was detailed steel beams and columns. Although it was intricate, it was neat and orderly and everything could be seen at a glance. The name of the shop was even more chic. It was called Truth Cafe. Zhao Liangzi walked into the cafe with 2 beautiful women, looking straight ahead, and immediately attracted everyone's attention. He found a seat by the window and sat down. Gun Yanji sat by the window next to Zhao Liangzi. Bai Shuang sat opposite them. She walked to the window and saw that the cafe was originally built by the sea. Outside the window were towering reefs, and a little further away was the coastline. There was no beach, and the sea slammed directly against the reefs, splashing white mist and rolling waves. Rocks pierced the sky, raging waves beat against the shore, and rolled up 1,000 piles of snow. Gun Yanji smiled and pointed to the scenery outside the window. Our ancient poems describe it so vividly. Did the ancients come here? Zhao Yangzi glanced at her and smiled. You are indeed a top student. You can even recite poems. You only know how to mock me. Gu Nianji curled her lips. Hurry up and introduce me to the best coffee here. Zhao Yangzi didn't look at the menu and directly said to the waiter, give her a natural cappuccino, I want a mocha, and the lady opposite me will have a latte. Natural cappuccino with sugar and double milk. Mocha with black mocha. Latte with milk, no sugar and a little hot cocoa. Bai Shuang's expression became even more complicated. She looked at Zhao Yangzi strangely and said, you actually remember my taste. I went to a few concerts with you and I know what you like, Zhao Yangzi said casually. He leaned back in his seat and asked Bai Shuang, when did you come to Cape Town? We haven't been here for long. Do you have any good places to go? Really? Bai Shuang lowered her eyes in a panic. Her hands were clasped together and her arms trembled slightly. After a while she said, I've only been here for a few days. I came with a marine animal protection organization. I'm here to do science promotion for a while. Well, that's good. Gu Nianji saw that Bai Shuang was so nervous, so she quickly changed the topic. What kind of protected marine animals are there here? I only see seafood. She pursed her lips as she spoke. Bai Shuang burst out laughing at Gu Nianji's teasing. You only know how to eat seafood. We can't let our captain know about this. If he knew, he wouldn't say another word to you. Gu Nianji said. Is it wrong to eat seafood? That was a dish. It's a vegetable. Okay, I know you like seafood, so I'll take you to the best restaurant here today, okay? Zhao Yangzi glared at Gu Nianji. Gu Nianji nodded with a smile. I must eat until I'm full. You make it sound like you're not full. You ate 3 bowls of rice yesterday. Zhao Yangzi raised his hand and called the waiter over to order 2 small cakes for Gu Nianji and Bai Shuang. At this time the waiter also brought the coffee over. Zhao Yangzi's black mocha didn't have any fancy patterns, but it was a solemn and dark color. Bai Shuang's latte was dark yellow, like the color of salted egg yolk in a mooncake. There was a wheat ear dotted with white milk foam on it. Gu Nianji exclaimed in admiration and took her natural cappuccino. The shape of a heart was drawn with white milk foam on the pale yellow. Gu Nianji looked at the heart and thought of the heart-shaped steak Hu Xiaoheng made. Her heart skipped a beat, and she caught a glimpse of a tall figure from the corner of her eye. She immediately looked over without batting an eyelid. The man wore the same uniform as the waiters here. He lowered his head at the coffee counter and made various coffees according to the customer's requests. His fingers were straight and clean, and his knuckles couldn't be seen. When he made the coffee, it was almost like he was making a work of art. As if sensing Gu Nianji's gaze, the man raised his head and smiled at her. It was a completely unfamiliar face, but Gu Nianji looked at him like he was possessed. Then she quickly lowered her head, her heart pounding. No matter how the man pretended to be, Gu Nianji could recognize that it was Hu Xiaoheng. He said he wanted to hide in the dark, but he actually hid like this. Gu Nianji's thoughts ran wild. She was happy, worried, and a little bloated, as if happiness was too full and about to overflow. She patted her chest and looked at the coffee cup in front of her with a big smile. Zhao Yangzi took a few sips of the black mocha and saw Gu Nianji giggling at the coffee cup. He couldn't help frowning. Hey, why are you smiling at a coffee cup like you're in love? Bai Shuang looked over and smiled understandingly. Little Zay, you don't understand. Nianji must be thinking of her lover, right? Gu Nianji, Zhao Yangzi, what's wrong? Did I say something wrong? Bai Shuang raised her eyebrows and pouted her plump lips into a seductive shape. I also want to have a lover, but I don't have one. What should I do? Gu Nianji came back to her senses and spread her hands helplessly. How could that be? Nianji, aren't you Hu Xiao's girlfriend? Bai Shuang asked in surprise. Hu Xiao doesn't have any other girlfriends besides you. Gu Nianji seemed to feel the person on the other side of the coffee table looking over. She smiled without batting an eyelid. Really? But we broke up. The corners of Zhao Yangzi's mouth twitched, but he didn't speak. Bai Shuang quickly asked with concern, Hu Xiao was so good to you. Why did you break up? Nianji, think about it again and work hard to get Hu Xiao back. No, chasing people is too tiring. I plan to be chased in the future and not chase myself anymore. Gu Nianji said with a smile. She didn't mean anything else. She was just talking about her actual situation. But in Bai Shuang's ears, it sounded like she was talking about her. She couldn't help blushing and murmuring as she lowered her head. She took a sip of her latte and didn't speak anymore. Gu Nianji saw Bai Shuang's reaction and realized that her words had probably been misunderstood by Bai Shuang. She quickly lowered her head as well. The three of them sat in the seats with the best view, but none of them looked out the window at the seascape. They only buried their heads in coffee, which was a wonder of the cafe. Hua Xiaoheng shook his head behind the coffee table. He was speechless at the three of them. They were three idiots put together and became idiots to the power of three. He called a waiter over and asked him to deliver the snacks that Zhao Liangzi had ordered. Only then did he break the strange silence on Zhao Liangzi's side. With food, Gu Nianji became lively again and said to Bai Shuang, "Miss Bai, are you still planning to return to China? How long are you going to stay abroad? I actually don't know where to go on this trip. I just randomly pointed on the map and it pointed to this place." Bai Shuang was very envious of Gu Nianji's carefree attitude. She said to her enthusiastically, "If you want to have fun, you should still return to China. Our country now has the best entertainment and food in the world. But if you want to see the scenery, there are more places abroad. After all, the scenery is different from China, so sightseeing is quite interesting." Gu Nianji nodded repeatedly. "Actually, I chose Cape Town mainly because there is especially fresh seafood here. You still talk about food every other day. If I didn't know you, I would have thought you weren't a lawyer, but a gourmet consultant at a restaurant." Zhao Liangzi pushed the snacks in front of him to Gu Nianji. "You eat it? Can it stop your mouth?" "Okay, I won't talk anymore." Gu Nianji made a zippered gesture to her mouth, then buried her head in the cake. Only then did Zhao Liangzi speak to Bai Shuang. "You're alone. Don't stay here for too long. Go back when it's about time." Zhao Liangzi persuaded her sullenly. "Nianji's trip abroad will only take a few weeks, and then I'll send her back to China." "Really?" Bai Shuang was a little perfunctory with Zhao Liangzi, but her eyes never left Gu Nianji. She seemed to think that Gu Nianji was easier to talk to, so she smiled and changed the topic to Gu Nianji. "Nianji, you asked me to recommend a few fun places just now. I just remembered." "Really? I'd like to hear more." Gu Nianji quickly put down her cake and sat upright, looking all ears. Bai Shuang was indeed a national spokesperson. She spoke in a pleasant voice and introduced the fun places in Cape Town to Gu Nianji as if she was familiar with them. The natural scenery of Cape Town is near the coastline on the outskirts of the city. You can live here and go out every morning and evening. Live here for 2 weeks and the sea view will make you want to vomit. There are some very special museums in Cape Town. If you have enough time, go to the museum for a few days and I guarantee you won't get bored. As Bai Shuang spoke, she enthusiastically took out her phone and opened the phone photo album. "Look, these are a few photos I took in the museum in the city center a few days ago. Aren't they very interesting?" Gu Nianji looked through them one by one and smiled non-committally. The museums she liked were history museums, preferably ones that were very old. Most of the museums here were less than 100 years old, so she wasn't very interested in them. However, she still looked at the photos politely and occasionally let out one or two unintelligible sighs of admiration. Just as Gu Nianji was about to politely decline all the photos, she saw another photo. In this photo, Bai Shuang stood in front of a mosaic wall and made a V sign. On the wall not far behind her, there was a cursive English poem. It was the one that Gu Nianji was very familiar with. "Little girl needs tea." Gu Nianji's eyes narrowed and she immediately pointed to the photo and asked, "Where is this? Is this also a museum? It doesn't look like the previous photos." This was the first update of the day, chapter 1194, It's Too Tiring to Chase Someone. Today was the 4th day of the double monthly votes for October. Everyone hurry up and cast your guaranteed monthly votes. The second update was at 1 p.m. and the third update was at 8 p.m. Moi. Chapter 1204. Bai Shuang's eyes flashed and she tilted her head to look. "Which photo?" "Oh, this one. This one wasn't taken in a museum. I was wondering how this kind of wall would appear in a museum." Gu Nianji suppressed the excitement in her heart and said lightly, but she still didn't give up asking, "Miss Bai, where did you take this photo? I think it's so special. I might as well go play here." Bai Shuang looked at her in surprise. "Here. This isn't a place to play." "Not a place to play? Then where is this place?" Gu Nianji looked at the photo carefully and wished she could send it to her phone. Zhao Liangzi saw that Gu Nianji was so interested, so he also came over to take a look. He thought the place looked familiar. Maybe he had been there before, but at this time, as someone who had just arrived in Cape Town, he shouldn't be so familiar with this place. So he kept his mouth shut. Bai Shuang saw that Gu Nianji was very interested, so she smiled and said, "This was taken in the financial street in the city center." Financial Street? Gu Nianji was even more puzzled. You mean this photo was taken in a financial institution? As she spoke, Gu Nianji looked at the photo carefully again. This place seems to be the lobby. Ordinary fund institutions don't need such a large lobby, and there is a faint reflection on the mosaic so you can see the situation on the opposite side. It should be facing the street. Bai Shuang was stunned. Gu Nianji could actually analyze a photo so clearly and logically. Gu Nianji's attention was completely focused on the photo, so she didn't notice the change in Bai Shuang's expression. Zhao Yangze and Hua Xiaoheng both noticed Bai Shuang's situation. Gu Nianji looked at the photo and said thoughtfully, "Then this can only be a bank. Only a bank would have a door facing the street in such a large lobby." Bai Shuang laughed at this time and clapped for Gu Nianji. She said with a smile, "I heard little Zay say that you are very smart, so I thought you were only good at reading. Now I know that your intelligence is really all-encompassing." Gu Nianji, "There are a lot of things I don't know either." Gu Nianji shook her head with a smile. "I'm not being modest. I only know about the law and computers." He was considered to have graduated from a law major, but his knowledge of computers was completely unorthodox. He had learned it from Brother Zay and had also learned it on his own. "Apart from that, I really don't understand anything else." "It's already very impressive that you understand computers and the law." Bai Shuang patted the back of Gu Nianji's hand and took her phone away. "You're right. This photo was indeed taken in the lobby of a bank." Bai Shuang opened the GPS of the photo and looked at it. "It's Société Française Générale, which is what we call the industrial bank branch." Industrial bank? This is a big bank. Gu Nianji thought about it. It was a branch of the Bank of France. There's nothing strange about it. Bai Shuang turned off her phone and said with a smile, "Cape Town is the country's largest financial center. Have you ever been to the financial street in the city center? The streets are filled with branches of the world's major banks, and the buildings are tall and avant-garde. It's completely different from the rest of Cape Town." Gu Nianji's interest was piqued. "Really? Then I have to go and see." As she spoke, she turned to look at Zhao Yangze. "Brother Zay, I want to go to this industrial bank to withdraw money." Zhao Yangze was almost speechless. He frowned and said, "Just say that you want to visit the bank. Why are you talking about hobbies?" Gu Nianji also thought it was funny. On the surface she was clearly traveling. What did she mean by going to the bank? Zhao Yangze frowned and objected, "What's so good about the bank? You don't have to go to the bank to withdraw money now. You can use your mobile phone to transfer money." Bai Shuang smiled and didn't try to persuade him anymore. She said, "Little Zay is right. What's the big deal? Do you really have to go to the bank? Don't go out and run around if you can solve the problem with the internet." The more she said this, the more Gu Nianji wanted to go to the bank. And she knew that the timing of Bai Shuang taking out this photo was too coincidental. But this handwritten English poem wouldn't appear there for no reason. Moreover, she and Hua Xiaoheng didn't know where to start, and Bai Shuang had blatantly presented this clue to them. If she didn't take advantage of this opportunity, she wouldn't be Gu Nianji. Even if it was a trap, she had to break into it. As the old saying went, nothing ventured, nothing gained. Similarly, she wouldn't let go of any information related to her father. Gu Nianji leaned lazily against the seat. In front of her was a natural cappuccino that had already been finished. The cake on the small plate was half-bitten, and she wasn't in the mood to continue eating. "I'm from the countryside and haven't seen much of the world. This kind of big French bank is still very attractive to me. Wait for me to take a picture of it so I can fool people when I return home," Gu Nianji said with a smile. The only thing missing was the word liar, embedded in her forehead. Bai Shuang symbolically persuaded her twice before changing her mind. "Since you want to go, then I'll risk my life to accompany you. Do you want to go now or tomorrow?" Gu Nianji wanted to go now, but Zhao Yangze felt that it was too hasty. He also didn't know what the bank had to do with their mission this time. The two discussed it, and Zhao Yangze even tempted Gu Nianji with the most delicious seafood. Finally, she changed her mind and agreed to visit the industrial bank in France in the afternoon. Bai Shuang looked at them and smiled. "Where are we going for lunch? It's my treat." "No need, we still have things to do when we get back." Zhao Yangze was anxious to find Hua Xiaoheng to discuss the next step. Gu Nianji and Hua Xiaoheng didn't have time to explain the whole thing to Zhao Yangze. Gu Nianji thought of this and nodded. "Then let's go to the bank after lunch." Zhao Yangze was speechless. Bai Shuang stood up and put the Chanel Lu Boy on her shoulder. She smiled and said, "Then let's meet at the entrance of the bank in the afternoon. How about that?" I'm going back now to see how our marine animal protection organization is doing. Miss Bai, you actually don't have to accompany us. If you have work to do, go ahead. Gu Nianji didn't want to waste too much of Bai Shuang's time. Bai Shuang smiled easily and put a hand on Gu Nianji's shoulder. I'm doing volunteer work. I can quit any time. Nianji, it's more interesting to be with you guys. She didn't want to be with me, but with Brother Zhe. Gu Nianji nodded. If Miss Bai doesn't mind the trouble, you can come with us. After deciding on a time to meet in the afternoon, Bai Shuang was relieved and hurried out of the Truth Cafe. Coffee. After Bai Shuang left, she called a taxi directly in front of the cafe and said, "Take me back to the Camps Beach Apartment Hotel." She returned to the apartment-style hotel one step ahead of Gu Nianji and Zhao Liangzi. As soon as she entered the door, she saw a white man with a silver beard and hair sitting in the middle of the living room of her room with a cane. Bai Shuang immediately smiled. "Mr. Li Dishi, you're here." This is the second watch of the day, Chapter 1195, Going to the Bank. Today is the fourth day of the double monthly votes in October. Everyone hurry up and vote for your guaranteed monthly votes. 8 o'clock p.m. the third watch. Moi. Chapter 1205. Li Dishi smiled kindly at Bai Shuang. He took the initiative and pointed to the seat across from him. "My dear, you're finally back. Sit." Bai Shuang calmly sat down across from him and exchanged a few words with him. "Have you had lunch yet? Do you want to order takeout?" She didn't seem surprised at all that Li Dishi had appeared in her hotel room. Li Dishi was also very satisfied with Bai Shuang's calmness. He smiled and shook his head. "No, I'm not hungry. Let's not talk about food now. I wanted to ask you, how is it going?" "Everything is going well," Bai Shuang said calmly, her gaze becoming firm and solemn. "But so far, only Gu Nianji and Zhao Liangzi have been seen. I haven't seen Hua Xiaoheng." After a pause, Bai Shuang gritted her teeth and said, "Didn't you say that Hua Xiaoheng would be with Gu Nianji? I've already said that I just want to kill Hua Xiaoheng and avenge my father. I don't want to complicate matters." Be quiet, dear." Li Dishi reached out and pressed his hand down to calm Bai Shuang down. "I know that the Huaxia Empire has a saying that the death of one's father is absolutely irreconcilable. But you can't be too anxious. It'll be bad if you alert the enemy. That Mr. Hua is too cunning. I don't care how powerful he is. In short, he killed my father, so he must die." Bai Shuang's tears came out as she said this harshly. She wiped the tears on her cheeks with the back of her hand and whispered, "But you haven't given me any concrete evidence." "What? What if he didn't kill him? If you lie to me, I'm not that easy to bully." No one has questioned what I said to Li Dishi yet. "You are the first," Li Dishi said with a smile. In the face of Bai Shuang's questioning, he didn't seem to be angry and thought it was reasonable. If Bai Shuang believed him too quickly, it was either because she wasn't capable enough, or because she wasn't shrewd enough and didn't have enough vision. Li Dishi didn't want to cooperate with someone who couldn't accomplish anything but only spoiled things. Therefore he understood why Bai Shuang repeatedly asked for evidence. Bai Shuang looked resolute and insisted, "I have done what you asked me to do. I purposely created a few chance encounters with Zhao Liangzi. Not only did he still have feelings for me, but he also made it clear that the person he loved was me, not my cousin. I've already won his and Gu Nianji's trust. As long as Hua Xiaoheng was in Cape Town, he would always show up to look for Gu Nianji. However, before I act, I still want to see the evidence." Li Dishi listened with great satisfaction. After plotting this for so long, it was finally time for it to end. "Well, I promised you when you led them to the Société Française Generale Bank, and I'll give you the evidence." As he spoke, Li Dishi took out a flash drive. This is the proof of allegiance that Hong Kongquan, the head of the Secret Service, provided when he contacted the CIA. When she heard that it was Hong Kongquan who had provided the information, Bai Shuang's eyes flashed. It's really him? There was a possibility that it was true. Bai Shuang took the flash drive from Li Dishi suspiciously. She got up, found her laptop and plugged the flash drive in. The flash drive contained a recording archive, as well as an internal top-secret material. However, the material was incomplete and there were only a few pages. She clicked on the play button of the recording archive, and Bai Yueran's calm voice came from the computer's microphone. "General G. Speaker Long, I think this is a golden opportunity. Major General Hua happens to be near that area, so we should authorize Major General Hua to act immediately. As far as we know, Bai Yuxing hasn't revealed all the information he knows. It's not because he still has a sense of shame, but purely because he wants to maximize the benefits of the information in his hands. Because once he revealed everything, he would no longer be of any use to them. The Americans are the best at turning hostile and ruthless, and they specialize in selling out their underlings. As soon as Bai Shuang heard that Major General Hua should act at the same time, she burst into tears. She would never forget that day for the rest of her life. Sitting on the balcony, enjoying the sea breeze, drinking red wine, texting and calling her cousin, and waiting for her father to return from diving. She didn't expect to receive bad news. Bai Shuang covered her mouth and cried sadly. Seeing Bai Shuang's reaction, Li Dishi was even more satisfied. He stood up. I will leave these things for you. Think about it carefully. I don't need to teach you what to do, right? Bai Shuang nodded quietly. Don't worry. Li Dishi stood up with the help of his crutches. Lead them to Société Générale Bank and let them find the evidence themselves. You don't have to worry about the rest. No, I want to avenge my father with my own hands. Bai Shuang shook her head. You can't deprive me of this opportunity, or I will give up on the cooperation. Give up on the cooperation? Li Dishi narrowed his eyes. Do you think you can still get off the boat at this point? Why not? You can just kill me. Bai Shuang raised her head slightly, her eyes filled with despair. I live to avenge my father. Li Dishi stared at her for a few minutes and tried to use hypnosis to test her. Bai Shuang was too emotional, and Li Dishi spent a lot of effort. Just as it worked, a ringing phone woke Bai Shuang up from her hypnotic state again. Li Dishi's eyes darkened. He retracted his gaze and said calmly, Okay, I will contact you again. Bai Shuang blinked and looked down at her phone to find that it was Gun Yanji's number. She showed her phone to Li Dishi and raised her eyebrows. Look, they have complete trust in me. What else do you have to worry about? I don't want to go through so much trouble to lure them into the trap, only for others to steal the credit and reap the benefits in the end. Her words were so reasonable that Li Dishi couldn't refuse, and he even agreed with her in his heart. In their line of work, performance and status were more important. Money was secondary. Moreover, Li Dishi had investigated Bai Shuang and knew that she didn't lack money. Okay, keep up the good work. I will let you personally participate. Li Dishi nodded and left Bai Shuang's room with the help of his crutches. He got into his black bulletproof car and ordered someone to drive it away immediately. In the car, his personal assistant asked worriedly, Do you really trust Bai Shuang? Yes, Li Dishi said lightly. Li Dishi said indifferently, People like her are the focus of our development. She is the best candidate for this operation. Relatives betrayed, lovers stolen, and fathers killed. If she doesn't cooperate with us, who will she cooperate with? Director is wise. His personal assistant quickly flattered him, then intentionally or unintentionally criticized Reinitz in front of Li Dishi. In fact, if Major General Reinitz had put in some effort in this matter, you wouldn't have had to personally win over Bai Shuang. Although Bai Shuang has connections, she is no longer a member of the Wuxia imperial government. I think her role is limited. Li Dishi sighed deeply. It's not that Reinitz isn't good enough, but there are some people we can't fight against. You don't understand. He had told Reinitz that if he encountered a situation where he had to fight Hijichu, he must not fight him head-on. Li Dishi didn't expect that Hijichu would really go to the Taj Mahal to help Gun Yanji. Reinitz returned empty-handed, and the report he wrote bluntly said that Hijichu was too powerful and that his mercenaries were very powerful. All of them combined were no match for him. Reinitz was able to escape because he used Gun Yanji to threaten Hijichu. Hijichu was worried about Gun Yanji and didn't want to hold back, so he took the opportunity to escape. Li Dishi had always thought that Reinitz was as powerful as Hua Xiaoheng and was only slightly weaker than Hijichu. Hijichu was powerful not because he himself was powerful, but because the power behind him was too powerful. Even with Li Dishi's position in the CIA, he couldn't find out Hijichu's true background. Therefore, Li Dishi, who had always been known for his caution, didn't act rashly and didn't punish Reinitz. However, Reinitz didn't completely fail. At least he led them to Cape Town. This time, Li Dishi carefully inquired about Hijichu and learned that Hijichu didn't follow them to Cape Town. Instead, he returned to the Wuxia Empire. He was currently teaching his doctoral students at B University in the imperial capital. Li Dishi sent people to closely monitor Hijichu's movements to prevent a repeat of the previous situation of overtly repairing a plank road while secretly infiltrating another city. On this side, Reinitz had already been exposed, so he wouldn't send Reinitz again. Instead, he looked for one of the candidates he had been looking for a long time, Bai Shuang. After Li Dishi left, Bai Shuang stood in front of the window of the hotel room with a glass of red wine in her hand. She stared at the scenery outside for a while, then drank the red wine in her hand. She changed into another red dress and waited to go to the bank with Gun Yanji and Zhao Liangzi. Gun Yanji and Zhao Liangzi left the Truth Cafe and found a very high-end seafood restaurant. The two of them sat by the window, and outside the window was still the vast sea. As soon as Gun Yanji sat down, she found a man sitting behind her. His aura was very familiar to her. It was Hua Xiaoheng. This is the third update of the day, Chapter 1196, The Best Candidate. Today is the fourth day of the double monthly votes for October. Everyone hurry up and vote for your guaranteed monthly votes. Good night, dear ones. Chapter 1206. This time Hua Xiaoheng changed his appearance again. He no longer looked like a waiter from an African cafe. Instead, he looked like a Caucasian with a high nose and deep eyes. He wore a khaki hunting suit with light camouflage. His sleeves were rolled up to his elbows, revealing the tattoos all over his arms. He was wearing khaki overalls and a pair of earth-colored mountain boots from a well-known military boot brand, Black Eagle. It was impossible to tell that he was a Chinese man. He sat leisurely on a chair in the restaurant, back to back with Gun Yanji. The steam rising from his body almost enveloped Gun Yanji. Gun Yanji's face reddened. Zhao Liangzi sat across from her. He looked at her uncomfortable expression, then at Hua Xiaoheng, who was sitting behind her. He smiled knowingly and picked up the menu to order. This was the season to eat lobsters. Zhao Liangzi ordered a steamed lobster for Gun Yanji. It was fresh from the sea and weighed 2 to 3 pounds. Coupled with the small squid rings that were covered with egg powder and fried yellow, sprinkled with salt and pepper, and then shredded Basque green peppers, drizzled with a little mayonnaise, mixed together to eat, it was truly a supreme delicacy. The unique sweetness of the fresh lobster was not offset by any other flavors. Then he took a bite of the fried squid rings sprinkled with salt and pepper. Finally, he finished it with the slightly sweet and sour Basque green pepper. It was like a top-grade perfume. Even the taste was divided into the beginning, middle, and end. After eating a few mouthfuls, the fragrance lingered in one's mouth, making one forget to return home. The more Gun Yanji ate, the happier she became. She no longer paid attention to the situation around her. Zhao Liangzi took the opportunity to discuss the day's events with Hua Xiaoheng, who was sitting behind Gun Yanji. Both of them were wearing Bluetooth headsets and holding cell phones in their hands. Zhao Liangzi texted Bai Shuang's condition. Little Zay, Bai Shuang took the initiative to take us to the bank and asked about you many times. Mr. A, it seems that there is indeed a problem. Go with her, don't worry. Xiao Zay. I'm not worried. I'm worried about your honey. Mr. A. Hua Xiaoheng had always used Alex outside, so everyone called him Mr. A. Hua Xiaoheng was speechless when he saw Zhao Liangzi's message. He didn't say anything else as he stood up to pay the bill and left. By the time Gun Yanji finished the steamed lobster, she realized that Hua Xiaoheng had already left. Zhao Liangzi's expression didn't look too good because he still couldn't accept the possibility of Bai Shuang betraying him. Gun Yanji looked back silently and didn't ask Zhao Liangzi anything. She quietly ate her dessert. What she wanted was a small volcanic lava cake. It was freshly baked and melted in her mouth. There was coffee inside and it was a little bitter, just enough to counteract the excessive sweetness. Gun Yanji's mood improved as she ate. She saw Zhao Liangzi's frown and smiled. What's wrong? What's bothering you? Lighting and photography, get ready. As she spoke, she held a spoon in front of Zhao Liangzi like a microphone. Using the tone of a late-night talk show host on a radio station, she coaxed him to speak his mind. Tell me your story. Zhao Liangzi was speechless. He grabbed the spoon that Gun Yanji handed to him and threw it away. He pulled her up and said, let's go. Get in the car first. I'll take you for a ride along the coast. It was still early before the time they had agreed on with Bai Shuang. Zhao Liangzi felt really aggrieved and had to get some things off his chest. He got into the jeep with Gun Yanji and stepped hard on the accelerator. It didn't take long for them to arrive at the coastal embankment of Cape Town. At this time the embankment was empty, and they were the only car speeding under the blue sky. Next to them was the blue Atlantic Ocean. The sea water lapped against the reef and sometimes splashed onto the embankment. Gun Yanji looked at the magnificent scene outside the car while quietly listening to Zhao Liangzi talk about his worries. She knew that at this time, Zhao Liangzi only needed a pair of ears to listen and didn't need her to give any opinions. Zhao Liangzi turned the steering wheel and stepped on the brakes. A few seagulls flew in front of their window and almost hit the windshield in front of them. I don't know what happened, but Bai Shuang is really different from before. Gun Yinji grunted. How is she different? She didn't like to wear red clothes before because she said that her original look was more gorgeous, and wearing red would make her look tacky. Gun Yinji held back her laughter and nodded. What else? Now she wears red dresses all the time and it's not the same every time. I don't know what's wrong with her. When Zhao Yangzi said this, he slammed the steering wheel hard and there was a shrill whistle. Another flock of seagulls was startled, and they fluttered away into the sky. That's nothing. Gun Yinji tilted her head. Women are fickle when it comes to clothes. I didn't like to wear dresses when I was a child, but now I like them very much. Zhao Yangzi glanced at her with a sneer. You didn't like to wear dresses when you were a child because you were fat. Gun Yinji's face turned green. Don't point out people's shortcomings when you scolded them, and don't hit their faces when you hit them. Zhao Yangzi pursed his lips and apologized perfunctorily. His mood became even more chaotic. He hated himself even more. He knew that Bai Shuang had a problem and it was probably a big problem, but he still loved her. He loved her hopelessly. Gun Yinji saw that Zhao Yangzi's mood was even more depressed, so she stopped messing around with him. She thought for a while and said, Bai Shuang has experienced a lot of things, and she has never had anyone around her that she can trust and rely on. Seeing you kiss director by that day may have been the straw that broke the camel's back. She had no one she loved, no father, no job, and her father was condemned by everyone for treason. These were all unbearable things for Bai Shuang, who had once been a proud daughter of heaven, right? Gun Yinji put herself in Bai Shuang's shoes and could understand her mood. However, if Bai Shuang really made an unforgivable mistake, Gun Yinji didn't want to absolve her. She didn't care about the tragic mental journey of the person who committed the crime. There were many miserable ordinary people, and not everyone who had an unfortunate experience would commit a crime. When the vast majority of people encountered difficulties, they chose to face them and overcome them. Only a very small number of cowards and people with dark hearts would take revenge on society and harm others. There must be a bottom line. This was the principle that Gun Yinji had always adhered to. She analyzed the change in Bai Shuang's behavior only for Zhao Yangzi. She didn't want to see Zhao Yangzi sad. Zhao Yangzi said with a gloomy expression, I thought that might be the reason. After a while, Zhao Yangzi took a deep breath. If I go to her and tell her to give up all her current actions, is there still time? As long as it hadn't caused a serious mistake, Zhao Yangzi always had a glimmer of hope. Gun Yinji shook her head and said lightly, Brother Zhe, I don't think that's appropriate. First, we don't have any evidence and all our opinions are based on speculation. I studied law and the law stresses evidence. You can't convict someone with only logic and no evidence. Second, what if Bai Shuang just wants to change her mood and start over? For example, when we girls break up, many people choose to cut off their long hair and start over. Third, even if Bai Shuang really colluded with someone to harm us, I'm not willing to give up this opportunity. Opportunity? Zhao Yangzi was surprised. What other opportunity could there be? Isn't it a trap? You see, what she's been trying to do, isn't it to lure us? To be honest, Bai Shuang's plan was very clumsy. Not only did she fail to deceive experts like Zhao Yangzi and Hua Xiaoheng, but even Gun Yinji, a layman, could see that something was wrong. However, Gun Yinji looked at the problem from a different perspective than Zhao Yangzi. She said faintly, Brother Zhe, do you know why Alex and I came to Cape Town? I heard from Alex that you were looking for something? Yes. Gun Yinji nodded. Actually, we have no clues at all. We only know that the thing is in Cape Town. But Cape Town is so big, how can we find it? Looking for a needle in a haystack? How long will it take to find it? Now, thanks to Bai Shuang taking the initiative to come to me with a clue, even if I know she may have ulterior motives, I can't give up this opportunity. Do you understand? Even if it was a trap, she had to take a look. The person behind the scenes obviously understood her mentality and threw out a bargaining chip that she couldn't resist. Even if it was a pit of fire, she had to jump in. That means you must go no matter what. Yes, I must go no matter what. Gun Yinji pursed her lips. That's the clue left by my father. I can't give up. Zhao Yangzi didn't say anything else. Since she had to go, there was no need to think about it. This was his mission and duty. He didn't care about life or death, and he wasn't afraid of danger. He would go through fire and water with an order. The two of them drove on the vast coastal embankment for a while. Zhao Yangzi saw that it was almost time, so he turned the steering wheel and drove to the financial street in the city center. The French bank was located in the middle of the financial street. It used to be the largest foreign bank in Cape Town, But now it was only a second-rate bank, not even a first-class one. From a distance, the two of them saw the red dress standing in front of the bank. It was as easy to recognize as a landmark. To be honest, Bai Shuang's figure was graceful and looked very good in a red dress. In the past, she had always looked cheerful and bright, so wearing a red dress might have been a bit tacky. But now, besides her cheerfulness, there was a hint of sharpness like a blade. It miraculously cut through the tackiness, making her look gorgeous and extraordinary, and her aura was powerful. Zhao Yangzi looked at Bai Shuang like this and his eyes were a little blurred. He said, "The Bai Shuang in the past was never very confident. Every time she went out to eat with me or to a concert, she had to go to the bathroom several times to tidy up her makeup. Even her hair had to be tidy." But now, Bai Shuang stood in front of the bank building, her shoulder-length hair disheveled by the wind, but she didn't care at all. Her big bright eyes seemed to glow, and the expression on her face was even more excited. Gu Nianji couldn't help saying, "At that time she was chasing after you, so of course she wasn't confident in herself. Now I'm afraid she has already given up on you," Gu Nianji said silently in her heart. She had experienced the stages of secret love and open love, so she knew how a woman's mood changed during these two stages. "Impossible," Zhao Yangzi flatly denied. "I know she still loves me. Her eyes can't lie to me." Gu Nianji, this is the first night watch of the day, chapter 1197, I know she still loves me. Today is the 5th day of the double monthly votes in October. Everyone hurry up and cast your guaranteed monthly votes. Second night watch at 1 p.m., third night watch at 8 p.m. P.S. Thank you to Only Reading Makes People Happy in Life for the 20,000 Chidian coins yesterday. Mwah. Chapter 1207. When Zhao Yangzi said this, his tone was resolute. His hands gripped the steering wheel tightly, and the veins on the back of his hands were visible. Gu Nianji silently glanced at Zhao Yangzi, knowing that this man who obviously loved Bai Shuang had given up on treatment. She didn't directly refute Zhao Yangzi's words and just smiled at him. "I hope Brother Zay's wishes come true." With that, she opened the door and jumped out, then waved at Bai Shuang. "Miss Bai, over here." Bai Shuang's eyes lit up when she saw Gu Nianji, then she looked at the jeep behind her. Only Zhao Yangzi got out and she seemed a little disappointed. "It's really just the two of you?" Gu Nianji smiled and pretended not to understand what she meant. She fanned herself with her hand and said, "It's so hot. It's almost May and it's still so hot?" Cape Town was in the southern hemisphere, and the four seasons were the opposite of the northern hemisphere. It was the end of April and the beginning of May. In Cape Town, summer had just ended and autumn had entered. "Maybe it's autumn. Everyone is still wearing clothes like it's summer," Bai Shuang said uneasily. She looked behind Zhao Yangzi again before withdrawing her gaze. She smiled at Gu Nianji and said, "Which bank do you want to go to first?" Gu Nianji said bluntly, "The one you showed me. I think it's quite unique. I want to see its layout." "Okay, come with me." Bai Shuang held her hand and turned into the lobby of the bank. Zhao Yangzi was carrying a small travel bag containing water, snacks, essential balm, some band-aids, medicine, and a folding umbrella. He wore a khaki hunting jacket with a pistol tucked into the pocket of the jacket lining. Cape Town was a city that allowed guns. For safety reasons, Zhao Yangzi had to carry a weapon with him. He followed Bai Shuang and Gu Nianji into the lobby of the bank. It was afternoon and there weren't many customers in the bank. As soon as the three of them walked in, they were very eye-catching. Bai Shuang was bright and beautiful, Gu Nianji was delicate, and Zhao Yangzi was handsome. It was impossible not to attract attention. The account manager of the bank immediately came over and asked in English with a smile, "Good afternoon, everyone. How may I help you?" Bai Shuang immediately looked at Gu Nianji. "Do you want to open an account, or do you already have one?" Gu Nianji shook her head with a smile. "I'm just here to visit. I don't need to open an account. I don't have one anyway." Bai Shuang was very regretful and said, "All right then, I'll open an account in the future if I have the chance." She turned down the bank's manager and said, "We were attracted by the architecture here and just wanted to take a look." So it wasn't a depositor. The smile on the account manager's face faded a little and he nodded to them. "Please help yourselves." With that said, he turned around and went back to his office. Gu Nianji looked around the lobby and quickly found the place where the handwritten English poem was hung. She didn't try to hide it. She hurried over and stood in front of the handwritten English poem with a frown. Bai Shuang seemed to have just realized Gu Nianji's intentions and asked curiously, You like this poem very much? I don't think it's anything special. Gu Nianji smiled and crossed her arms in front of her chest. She raised her chin and said, "Don't you think that not only does this poem sound very nice to read, but the words are also very nice?" Bai Shuang glanced at it. "Handwritten English is nice to write." "Yes, not just anyone can write to this extent." Gu Nianji narrowed her eyes. "Do you know who the original author is?" Bai Shuang shook her head. "I don't know. How would I know?" After a while she couldn't help but ask again, "What's wrong? Is this poem very important?" "How do you know?" Gu Nianji asked casually. Her eyes were almost glued to the poem as she tried to find something different about it. Bai Shuang laughed. "Look at you. You're so focused. Are you going to tell me that it's just a moment of curiosity?" Gu Nianji looked back at her and said with a smile, "This poem is indeed very interesting, but I can't say whether it's important or not right now. What's there to be afraid of? One person is better than two. Tell us and we'll analyze it together." Bai Shuang suggested with a smile. "Three heads are better than one zhuge liang." Gu Nianji blinked her unusually large eyes and wondered, "Actually, I don't know what's special about it. Maybe this question is too difficult. I think I'll probably never find the answer in my lifetime." Bai Shuang seemed a little disappointed. She lowered her head and was silent for a while. "If you don't tell me in detail, how can I help you analyze it?" Did she really want Gu Nianji to say it? If Bai Shuang had nothing to do with this matter, Gu Nianji wouldn't say a word. But now it was clear that the people behind Bai Shuang knew that the poem was very important to Gu Nianji. Maybe they were the people who chased after her from the Taj Mahal. Therefore there was no need for her to hide it. Gu Nianji rolled her eyes and said, "Actually it's like this. My father once left me a poem. It's this one. I suspect there's a special connection between the two, and it indicates something." Her words were half true and half false, so no one would doubt it in a short time. Because the highest standard for a lie was 1 part truth and 9 parts falsehood. Bai Shuang was taken aback. Your father? You found his whereabouts?" "Gu Nianji," she shook her head slowly. "No, I'm looking for him. This poem is one of the clues." In fact, Gu Nianji had already learned from Reinitz that this poem was not a prediction of Gu Xiangguan himself, but something else, such as data or something. The data that her grandfather, Gu Haoze, had stolen from the Gestapo headquarters. It was also something that Reinitz had said the Bureau had been tracking for nearly half a century. "Oh, that's very important." Bai Shuang spoke in a northeastern dialect, causing Zhao Liangzi to frown. He remembered that Bai Shuang actually hated the northeastern dialect and never spoke it before. Although she was born in the imperial capital, her parents had sent her to live with her grandparents in the northeast for several years when she was a child, so she had learned a pure northeastern dialect. Later, when she returned to the imperial capital to attend middle school, she was teased by her classmates for a long time because of her northeastern dialect. After that, she refused to speak in northeastern dialect again. This time she actually said it openly in front of him and Gu Nianji. Zhao Liangzi couldn't help but look askance. Bai Shuang seemed oblivious and continued as if nothing had happened. "If this poem is a clue, does it predict a location or an object?" Gu Nianji couldn't help glancing at Bai Shuang and said calmly, "It could be a location or an object. In fact, other than that we have no clues at all." "I see." Bai Shuang frowned slightly and nodded. "Then let's continue looking." Gu Nianji smiled without saying anything. She took out her phone and aimed at the handwritten English poem to take photos. Bai Shuang's eyes sparkled as she looked at Gu Nianji and suddenly said, "Nianji, do you know how many words and letters this poem has?" Gu Nianji raised her eyebrows. "I know. 86 words and 365 letters." "What?" This was the second watch of the day, chapter 1198, Important Clues. Today was the 4th day of the double monthly vote for October. Everyone hurry up and vote for your guaranteed monthly votes. 8 o'clock p.m. the third watch. Moi. Chapter 1208. You even know this? Bai Shuang looked so surprised that Gu Nianji almost rolled her eyes. Haha, is it that difficult? Gu Nianji curled her lips at the handwritten English poem. You'll know once you read it. The corners of Bai Shuang's mouth twitched. Who would read an English poem and deliberately count how many letters and words there were? Maybe top students really were a different species from ordinary people. Bai Shuang stopped being perfunctory and nodded. I see. It's really interesting. How is it interesting? Gu Nianji didn't react for a moment and quickly thought about the two numbers in her mind. Was there any special meaning? Her heart skipped a beat and she remembered the address of the bank. It seemed to be number 86? To be precise, it was number 86 on Financial Street. This hint, Gu Nianji really wanted to kneel. Who would think in that direction? But maybe if she really used big data to analyze this handwritten English poem, this information would appear. Gu Nianji's eyes turned and looked at Bai Shuang. I think I just remembered. What did you remember? Bai Shuang's eyes lit up and grabbed Gu Nianji's shoulder. Tell me what you remembered. Gu Nianji glanced at Bai Shuang's hand on her shoulder speechlessly. Why was she so excited? She said slowly. I remember that the address of this place is also number 86? 86 Bank Street. When she was searching for this place on her phone, she had caught a glimpse of it on the phone map. Banking Street 86 Tage. That was the address. Ah, it's true. What a coincidence. Nianji, you're so smart. Bai Shuang let go of Gu Nianji's shoulder and patted her on the back with so much force that Gu Nianji almost stumbled. Zhao Liangzi quickly walked over to support Gu Nianji and said to Bai Shuang with dissatisfaction, Bai Shuang, what are you doing? I was complimenting her, can't I? Bai Shuang raised an eyebrow. Nianji, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it just now. Gu Nianji pursed her lips. I'm fine, but Miss Bai, I still can't figure out what's going on. I want to go back and think about it carefully. Zhao Liangzi glared at Bai Shuang. I'll believe you a little more if you apologize a little more sincerely. Bai Shuang was unhappy and rolled her eyes. Forget it. You already have a prejudice against me. No matter what I do, it's wrong. I was being a busybody today. I'm leaving. You guys take your time to watch. With that said, he actually turned around and strode away. Zhao Liangzi frowned and glanced at her back. He was in a terrible mood. Gu Nianji's gaze followed Bai Shuang's back until she could no longer be seen. She patted Zhao Liangzi's hand and whispered, It's okay, Brother Zhe. I'm fine. Zhao Liangzi looked away and let go of Gu Nianji's arm. He muttered, As long as you're okay, as long as you're okay. Gu Nianji looked back at the handwritten English poem and had an idea. She suggested that they go back first. She wanted to clear her thoughts again. There were too many mysteries and she could not believe it at that moment. Zhao Liangzi led her away with a heavy heart and went straight back to the apartment-style hotel suite they had rented. As soon as Bai Shuang came out of the bank, a taxi stopped on the side of the road. Bai Shuang opened the door and found Li Dishi sitting in the back seat. She quickly got in and nodded at Li Dishi. You're here too. Drive, Li Dishi instructed and asked Bai Shuang at the same time, How was it? Did they find any clues? Bai Shuang said confidently, Although it was more difficult, I have led them closer step by step. Was Xiaoheng's whereabouts? Li Dishi asked slowly. If you can't get rid of him, your trip will be in vain. Bai Shuang frowned and twisted the strap of her small backpack uneasily. You haven't found his whereabouts either? We only found out that Gu Nianji didn't come alone. There was a man with her. Li Dishi's eyes were dark and he was also a little unhappy. I don't know if it's him. It should be Gu Nianji's escort, Zhao Liangzi? Bai Shuang blinked. He said he was here to accompany her on vacation. He didn't mention Huo Xiaoheng. It's a pity that there aren't many surveillance cameras installed at the airport here. It's impossible to investigate the people leaving customs one by one. The driver sitting in the front row interjected. Bai Shuang was already used to this. Li Dishi came prepared this time, so he must have arranged everything properly. That's not surprising. If it weren't for that, how could this place become an arena for multinational competition? Bai Shuang smiled. The government agencies in Cape Town are useless. Everyone organizes their own armed forces to protect their own interests. From shops to homes, the rich hired their own security companies to protect them. Those who didn't have money could only resign themselves to fate. Although there was no longer racial discrimination against black people here, the economy and public security were much worse than before. Li Dishi nodded with satisfaction. Bai Shuang was indeed a good person. If she successfully helped them set up a trap for Huo Xiaoheng this time, he could really consider hiring her to work for him. But if Huo Xiaoheng really comes, I'm afraid you won't be able to deal with him with just the few of you. Bai Shuang tactfully stated her conditions. Mr. Li Dishi, I hope you can personally take charge. You don't know how terrifying Huo Xiaoheng's strength is. My goal is him. If I fail, I won't get a second chance. Li Dishi generally wouldn't be present in person for an operation of this level, but he would watch and direct from a distance. But this time it was different. This time it was the closing stage. After planning for so long and spending so much manpower and material resources, Li Dishi didn't want everything to be in vain. Moreover, Huo Xiaoheng was indeed very powerful. Reinitz couldn't show up, so Li Dishi really didn't trust anyone else to preside over this operation. He thought for a moment and slowly said, "As long as I can confirm that Hua Xiaoheng will definitely appear, I will personally lead people to help you. By Shuang you will personally see him fall at your feet. You can even shoot him with your own hands and add a few bullet holes to his body," Li Dishi said with a smile. There was a hint of excitement on his kind face that couldn't be hidden. "Will I?" Bai Shuang frowned in confusion. "I doubt it. You know nothing about his abilities?" "Nothing?" Li Dishi snorted. "Girl, we know much more information than you think." "Really? What exactly are they?" Bai Shuang asked curiously. Li Dishi smiled without saying anything. Bai Shuang waited for a while, but when she saw that Li Dishi didn't speak, she didn't ask any more questions. She changed the subject and said, "Actually, I don't know if this will succeed, but I can only do my best. The key is that I don't know what you hid in that bank that could attract them." "We didn't hide that thing. We just found it by chance." Li Dishi laughed. "If they need further hints, you might as well hint that it's a set of data." "Data? Hidden in the bank?" Bai Shuang expressed her confusion. "Shouldn't the data be hidden in the computer?" Li Dishi glanced at her and said with a smile, "If you hint at them like that, they will believe you more." From Li Dishi's observation, Zhao Liangzi did have feelings for Bai Shuang, which made things much easier. Men tended to lose their heads when they fell in love, so Bai Shuang really had a chance. Bai Shuang wasn't so optimistic. Her eyes flickered as she asked, "Is it data related to my father?" "Your father?" "Oh no, that thing is much more important than what your father provided." Bai Shuang, seeing that Bai Shuang's expression had obviously darkened, Li Dishi smiled and said, "However, the data provided by your father wasn't bad either. With the clues he provided, our CIA destroyed many of your country's contact points in North America and almost wiped them out in one fell swoop." Bai Shuang didn't look very happy. "My dear, are you not happy to hear this news?" Li Dishi asked keenly as he narrowed his shrewd eyes. Bai Shuang quickly shook her head. "It's not that I'm not happy. I just thought that my father didn't deserve to die no matter what. I just can't accept the fact that they lynched him like this." "Haha, you don't understand. At that time your father was under the strict protection of our people. They had no chance of getting your father back to the country other than lynching him. And if they were the ones dealing with traitors, that would be the only thing they would do." However, Li Dishi didn't say this out loud. If he did, Bai Shuang would definitely turn hostile. This girl had deep feelings for her father. Li Dishi felt that he could understand Bai Shuang's choice and approach very well. "But your protection still failed." Bai Shuang stared at Li Dishi and asked suspiciously, "Do you really have a way to get rid of Hua Xiaoheng?" "I still doubt it." "Then wait and see." Li Dishi laughed, dispelling the last trace of doubt he had about Bai Shuang. In order to make Bai Shuang work for them wholeheartedly, Li Dishi also gave her more benefits. "This is for you. From now on you are one of us. This badge is your identity nameplate." Li Dishi also handed Bai Shuang an envelope and said with a smile, "There is your account number and password inside. Use this account number and password to log on to the CIA website, enter your personal page and update your information. See if you are satisfied with your salary." Agent Bai Wheel, Agent Bai, welcome to join us. This is the third update for today, Chapter 1199, Not Willing. Today is the 5th day of the double monthly vote in October. Everyone hurry up and cast your guaranteed monthly votes. Good night, my dears. Chapter 1209. Bai Shuang held the envelope containing the CIA account number and password. She let out a long sigh of relief and showed an expression of relief. "Mr. Li Dishi, I finally don't have to worry about you suddenly abandoning me." Bai Shuang looked grateful and raised the envelope in her hand. "I finally have a job again. It hasn't been easy. You used to be a spokesperson for a country, but this job has wronged you. They didn't want you because they didn't have the foresight. Sooner or later, you will make them look at you differently and realize how wrong they were to dismiss you." The more Li Dishi looked at Bai Shuang, the more satisfied he became. Most importantly, Bai Shuang was the niece of the new Prime Minister of the Huaxia Empire. With this relationship, she would be able to access high-level secrets in the future, so he didn't need to say more. Even if Bai Shuang couldn't work in a government agency, it would be a piece of cake for her to get some information with her uncle's connections. Li Dishi spoke emotionally to Bai Shuang about her father, Bai Yuxing. "I am an old friend of your father. We have appreciated each other for so many years and know each other very well. I helped you escape your country smoothly and seek refuge in a beautiful and free life. Unfortunately, that Hua Xiaoheng was too cruel. Your father had clearly gone abroad, but he still relentlessly chased him out of the country and took his life with his own hands. Bai Shuang was silent, and the expression on her face was even mournful. Reed Hill observed her expression and patted her hand. My God, my God. My dear, don't be sad. Your father didn't die in vain. According to his intelligence, we destroyed nearly 63 branch systems of the Wuxia Empire in North America and eliminated nearly 100 people. This is a rare victory for our CIA in recent years. He had used this victory to become the CIA's secret second-in-command, mainly responsible for Europe and Asia. Eliminated so many people? Bai Shuang looked surprised and her fingers trembled slightly. Yes. Did you arrest them all? Haha, arrest them? Our CIA has a limited number of prisons. If we lock up so many people, there won't be enough cells. Li Dishi smiled meaningfully. Bai Shuang's heart was pounding. She tried to suppress her surprise and fear and said as calmly as possible, I understand. I will take responsibility. Li Dishi patted her on the shoulder and smiled, revealing his white dentures. Like father, like daughter. I am waiting to see you surpass your father's achievements. Surpass my father's achievements? Bai Shuang had mixed feelings. I think this is very difficult. Not difficult. Li Dishi was also very excited. As long as you can get rid of Hua Xiaoheng, your achievements will definitely surpass your father's. When the time comes, I'll ask for credit for you. At the very least, I'll give you the position of the Asia Liaison Office Director. Bai Shuang smiled and began to bargain. Mr. Li Dishi, do you take me for a fool? Although I wanted to take Hua Xiaoheng's life to avenge my father, killing him was only worth the position of the Asia Liaison Office Director? Shuang, I need to think again. Li Dishi choked on Bai Shuang's words, but he quickly recovered and said with a smile, You're right. If Hua Xiaoheng is really executed, then the position of division chief is really unfair to you. You are right. If Hua Xiaoheng is really executed, the position of director will be too much for you. Bai Shuang nodded slightly and said with a calm expression, Although there is still a certain distance from my expectations, we have already made a good start. As she spoke, she extended her hand to Li Dishi. Mr. Li Dishi, it's been a pleasure working with you. It's been a pleasure working with you. Li Dishi shook her hand. The two of them discussed the issue of contact in the car. Finally, they arrived at the hotel where Bai Shuang was staying. Li Dishi said, After you take them to find that thing, remember to find a chance to take a photo and send it to us. I will try my best. Bai Shuang nodded. And I don't know how big that thing is. Will it make them suspicious when I take a photo? Believe me, this thing shouldn't be big. It's only the size of a few sheets of A4 paper. Li Dishi seemed to be very familiar with that thing. Bai Shuang asked curiously, You sound like you have seen that thing before? I have indeed seen it before. It was the year I first went to Europe, Li Dishi said with emotion, instantly immersed in his memories. But at that time he was just a fledgling. He didn't know that he would become a powerful secret manipulator in the future. He only happened to see the data regarded as top secret by the Gestapo once when he was cleaning the room. It was only the size of a few thin pages with some data and graphics drawn on it. Later he learned that those were several sets of graphics of human DNA ribonucleic acid, followed by densely packed data. Their scientists treated these few pages as if they had found a treasure. They could spend several days and nights reading the information on them without eating or sleeping. Because it was too confidential, the Gestapo headquarters prohibited the material from being taken out of the tightly guarded data room. Even replicas could only be placed in the room next to them. It was impossible to take the data out of the entire base. The scientists who came to borrow the data racked their brains, but they couldn't take the data away. Some of them tried to recite the entire data, but there were so many numbers, and in the end only about a quarter of the content was memorized. Decades later, they worked with the CIA's secret laboratory to create a genetic virus weapon that was specifically targeted at the Wuxia people. It spread through the air and almost caused a large country to fall into hysteria and panic. Li Dishi shook his head regretfully when he thought of this. Unfortunately, if they had all the data, the Wuxia Empire wouldn't have been able to resolve the virus scare that time. The panic only lasted for half a year before it was completely brought under control. It was said that a vaccine had been developed. Li Dishi gathered his thoughts and thought of the top-secret data that was about to be within his reach. Hua Xiaoheng, who was about to become history, and Gu Nianji, who was about to become his. Li Dishi's aging face flushed an abnormal red. Even the experienced and astute spy master could not remain calm in the face of such a huge temptation. Because as long as he succeeded, He would be the first person in the history of international espionage. At that time, it would be his turn to take over the position of the head of the CIA. Mr. Li Dishi? Bai Shuang saw that Li Dishi had suddenly stopped talking, so she quickly reminded him, I heard that their time in Cape Town is limited. You have to prepare early. Li Dishi came back to his senses. That's not a problem. As for the specific time of the operation, I will inform you after you confirm Hua Xiaoheng's whereabouts. Bai Shuang agreed. It's best if you are present when the time comes. With Hua Xiaoheng's ability and cunning, I don't think anyone else among you can preside over this operation. It doesn't matter. I will try my best to show up. If I can't, don't doubt me. I will make sure that this operation only succeeds. Failure is not allowed. Li Dishi smiled mysteriously and motioned for Bai Shuang to get out of the car. Bai Shuang shrugged indifferently. I have said what I should have said and done what I should have done. If we don't succeed this time, can you guarantee that I will be able to escape unscathed? Of course. I have plenty of arrangements. Li Dishi agreed and immediately sent some of the people he had arranged to hide in the dark to Bai Shuang's phone. See for yourself. If I can't come and they can't stop Hua Xiaoheng, you can also retreat with these people. Okay. Bai Shuang looked at her phone and sent it to her email. I will wait for your good news. When Bai Shuang entered her hotel room, Gu Nianji and Zhao Liangzi also returned to the small courtyard of the apartment-style hotel they had rented. Gu Nianji didn't speak along the way. Her mind was only thinking about the two numbers over and over again. 86 words. If it means an address, 86 Financial Street, then what do the 365 letters represent? Gu Nianji muttered to herself as she opened the door and walked in. Hua Xiaoheng came out of the dining room. You're back? Gu Nianji's eyes lit up. When did you get here? I arrived a little earlier than you guys. Hua Xiaoheng curled his lips and watched Gu Nianji throw herself into his arms like a swallow returning to the woods. Hua Xiaoheng opened his arms and caught her firmly. He smiled and said, Little Zhe is here. Aren't you shy? Brother Zhe is not an outsider. Gu Nianji rubbed against Hua Xiaoheng's arms indifferently. You won't mind, right, Brother Zhe? Gu Nianji turned around and looked at Zhao Liangzi with a smile. Zhao Liangzi covered his eyes with his hands and groped his way to his room as he said, You guys continue. Continue? Just pretend I don't exist. Okay, come here. I have something to say. Hua Xiaoheng turned around and walked to the master bedroom. Gu Nianji, Zhao Liangzi, the two of them still followed him. After they entered, Hua Xiaoheng closed the door and walked to the bed with a normal expression. He sat down, then patted the seat next to him and said to Gu Nianji, Sit. Gu Nianji quickly sat down next to him. Zhao Liangzi sat on the single sofa beside the bed. Hua Xiaoheng began to talk about the information he had found in the past 2 days. Someone has indeed contacted Bai Shuang these past few days, and the situation is not optimistic. Hua Xiaoheng's expression became serious. And I also found out that a batch of guns and ammunition has mysteriously changed hands in the black market in Cape Town recently. Based on past experience, this is a sign of mercenary activity. Mercenaries generally did not bring weapons into the country personally. They would find local, legal or illegal gun markets to buy weapons after arriving at the place. Zhao Liangzi's brows furrowed so tightly that they could kill mosquitoes. He angrily kicked forward and brandished his fists saying, I can't take it anymore. I can't let Bai Shuang continue to make mistakes. Hua Xiaoheng crossed his arms and said very coldly and forcefully, Little Zhe, you should be more worried about your own safety. If there is really something wrong with Bai Shuang, then according to the information we have found, we are now besieged on all sides. This is the first update of the day, Chapter 1200, The First Man. Today is the 6th day of the double monthly votes for October. Everyone hurry up and vote for your guaranteed monthly votes. The second update will be at 1 p.m. and the third update will be at 8 p.m. P.S. Thank you to Momo Moshi for the 50,000 Chidian coins yesterday. Thank you to Heaven's Candy for the 10,000 Chidian coins yesterday. Mwah. Chapter 1210. Is that serious? No way. Zhao Liangzi still had a glimmer of hope that he could save Bai Shuang before things got out of hand. Hua Xiaoheng glanced at him indifferently. You're about to be wiped out by the enemy, yet you still have the heart to save your girlfriend. Little Zhe, are you stupid? Zhao Liangzi was rendered speechless by Hua Xiaoheng's words. After glaring at him for a while, Zhao Liangzi's eyes gradually turned red, and his nostrils flared. He opened his mouth several times but couldn't say a word. Gu Nianji sympathized with Zhao Liangzi, who had always been smooth sailing, and had almost lost his confidence as a man. She couldn't help but tug at Hua Xiaoheng's shirt and whispered, "Don't be so absolute. Maybe the situation isn't as bad as we think?" Yes. Nianji is right, maybe it's not that bad. Zhao Liangzi looked at Gu Nianji for help, hoping that she could help convince Hua Xiaoheng. Gu Nianji nodded slightly and shifted her gaze to Hua Xiaoheng's impeccably handsome side profile. "Alex, listen to me. I always feel that Bai Shuang has a lot of suspicious points. Not only her probing but also the way she handled things after meeting us. It's so different from before." Hua Xiaoheng looked ahead non-committally, crossed his arms, and stretched and bent his long legs in front of the bed. His strong body was like a bow ready to go. Gu Nianji looked at Zhao Liangzi again. "Brother Zhe told me that Bai Shuang didn't like to wear red dresses before, but this time she only wears a red dress. Bai Shuang usually pays attention to her appearance, especially her hairstyle, but now she doesn't care about her hair being messed up by the wind. Also," Gu Nianji paused. "She used to only be interested in Brother Zhe, but now she's more interested in you than Brother Zhe." Zhao Liangzi's face also turned green. "I didn't say that. He wouldn't make himself a cuckold for no reason." Gu Nianji curled her lips. "Yes, Brother Zhe didn't say that. The last point was my observation. Bai Shuang won't be interested in Alex." Zhao Liangzi refused to give up and only said, "I'm the only one in her heart." Gu Nianji didn't comment on Zhao Liangzi's secret confidence. She was only analyzing the situation based on the facts. Bai Shuang has shown so many different behaviors and ways of doing things in such a short period of time. I think it's a clear signal. It's clearly telling us that something is wrong with her. Gu Nianji purposely glanced at Hua Xiaoheng and whispered, "Alex, did you?" Hua Xiaoheng was in this line of work, so was Bai Shuang working for him? Was she a spy from the Special Operations Forces? Gu Nianji couldn't help letting her thoughts wander. Zhao Liangzi immediately denied it. "No, that's impossible. The Special Operations Forces wouldn't hire an outsider to be a spy for such a dangerous mission." Hua Xiaoheng was very satisfied with Zhao Liangzi's answer. His expression relaxed a little, but he still looked at Gu Nianji and said quietly, "I have no private contact with Bai Shuang, and I can't let Bai Shuang go undercover." Gu Nianji was a little embarrassed, but she still muttered, "Actually, we can kill two birds with one stone, right? Why not?" "We won't." Hua Xiaoheng corrected Gu Nianji's idea. "Our line of work is very professional. We have our own organizational discipline. Those who can work in the field have gone through very strict selection and training. It's impossible to let them go out to do field work without training in the base for 3 to 5 years. Bai Shuang hasn't received any relevant training. If we let an inexperienced person like her go undercover, she'll be seen through in minutes. Maybe they can follow the clues and catch all of our people in one fell swoop. It's really harmful to others and ourselves. And we won't disregard human life for the sake of the mission. Bai Shuang is a citizen of our country. We have the responsibility to protect her safety overseas, but we have no right to ask her to risk her life for us," Zhao Liangzi said in a low voice, his expression serious. Gu Nianji couldn't raise her head after being lectured by the two men. She pursed her lips and said unwillingly, "But how can you let me get in touch with Bai Shuang? Isn't this asking me to do things for you? Did we let you go alone?" Hua Xiaoheng touched her head. "If we set it up, when did we not have someone to accompany you? Little Zhe Big Xiong and I have never let you be alone." Gu Nianji had been alone in Germany because they hadn't taken the initiative to attack. Instead, they had been lured away by the enemy. Gu Nianji thought about it carefully and realized that was really the case. She looked at Hua Xiaoheng with mixed feelings, then looked at Zhao Liangzi and asked hesitantly, "Are you really not going to consider letting Bai Shuang do things for you? If she's deliberately acting different to remind you, or if she's being controlled and has no choice but to do this, but you don't believe her, isn't that discouraging her?" Hua Xiaoheng's face was expressionless at this time. He only held Gu Nianji's hand that was grabbing his shirt and said in a low voice, "Nianji, at times like this, we can't have the slightest hope. I know you're a law student and look for evidence for everything. But there's a prerequisite, and that's that in court, everything is based on evidence. In our line of work, people who look for evidence for everything are no longer alive in this world," Hua Xiaoheng said coldly and forcefully. Hua Xiaoheng said coldly and forcefully. His tone was unquestionable. "What you've said is only a possibility. It's just your guess. We don't know what the truth is. At times like this, we can only take all necessary measures to maintain our own safety and interests as much as possible." Zhao Liangzi understood what Hua Xiaoheng meant. As a professional, he couldn't refute it, but he was so sad that he couldn't even lift his head. But do you think we can't win by Shuang back? Gu Nianji thought about it again and felt that her analysis was reasonable. If she can work for us, we can get twice the results with half the effort. Of course, she also had to admit that Hua Xiaoheng's argument made more sense. In a situation where it was difficult to distinguish between friend and foe, wishfully thinking that the other party wasn't the enemy would only be sending herself to the enemy's mouth. Hua Xiaoheng looked at Gu Nianji with some reproach. Nianji, you can't do this. You can't do anything to achieve your goal. Gu Nianji's fair and tender little face finally turned red. She was so embarrassed that she wished there was a hole in the ground that she could crawl into. Zhao Liangzi saw Gu Nianji's embarrassed look and couldn't bear it. He quickly coughed and gave Hua Xiaoheng a look to tell him to stop talking. Hua Xiaoheng didn't look at him and continued to correct Gu Nianji's misconception that she liked to take shortcuts. I've been investigating privately for the past 2 days and found that the person who was in contact with Bai Shuang is most likely Li Dishi, the godfather of the Gestapo. Hua Xiaoheng frowned. Do you know who Li Dishi is? He's a veteran spy that even I have to be wary of. Is this person very powerful? Gu Nianji thought about it for a while and figured it out. Anyway, it wasn't shameful to be lectured in front of Hua Xiaoheng and Zhao Liangzi. One of the benefits of growing up with them was that she could withstand sarcasm and criticism. Let me tell you something that he once did. Back then, when the oil countries in the desert region were at war with other countries, Li Dishi traveled among the oil-producing countries alone and provoked war. The current chaos in the oil-producing countries can all be traced back to Li Dishi's achievements. Also, he was also a very high-ranking person in the CIA. He was just a cover for the Gestapo. Hua Xiaoheng didn't have any other thoughts about Li Dishi. After all, Li Dishi's work area didn't intersect with Hua Xiaoheng's. The two of them minded their own business, so there was no need to treat each other as enemies. However, when Gu Nianji was in danger in Germany, Hua Xiaoheng went through a lot of investigation and found out that Li Dishi was behind Reinitz. Only then did he take him seriously and even hate him. Li Dishi had ulterior motives for Gu Nianji, and Hua Xiaoheng was also eyeing Li Dishi. The phrase, know thyself and know thy enemy, was absolutely mutual between them. Li Dishi is such a powerful person. How could someone like Bai Shuang, who has no experience at all, escape his investigation? If I wanted to send an undercover agent, would I have sent someone as insignificant as Bai Shuang? I really did send her. As soon as Li Dishi investigated, she would be a dead person now. Hua Xiaoheng glanced at Zhao Liangzi. Especially since she is still entangled with little Zhe. This kind of person with a love brain is a big taboo in our line of work. Love is blind, and it is the easiest for people to get carried away. This was the second update for today, Chapter 1201, The Biggest Taboo in Your Line of Work. Today was the 5th day of the double monthly votes for October. Everyone hurry up and cast your guaranteed monthly votes. It was 8 o'clock in the evening. Mwah. Chapter 1211. So Bai Shuang didn't contact you? Although Gu Nianji understood what Hua Xiaoheng meant, she was still a little confused. Then is she an enemy or a friend? Hua Xiaoheng interrupted her. You can think of her as an enemy, but for me, only by considering her as an enemy can we formulate a flawless plan of action. We can't afford any accidents. Any accidents could cause the lives of their own people. Hua Xiaoheng had to be careful. Gu Nianji took a deep breath and shook her head. Okay, I'll listen to you. I really don't understand. Once again, Gu Nianji deeply understood that professionals had to do professional things. Hua Xiaoheng stood up. I'm already arranging the operation. A batch of light weapons will be shipped from the sea tonight. I'll go meet them. Zhao Liangzi quickly stopped him. I'm more familiar with this area. I'll go. No need. You stay here with Nianji. Maybe Bai Shuang will come to see you again tonight. You can try to get some information from her. Hua Xiaoheng explained and said to Gu Nianji, I put a gun in the safe in your master bedroom. It's loaded and secured. Remember to take the gun to protect yourself in case of an accident. The more formal hotel rooms usually had a safe for the guests to store their valuables. A safe. Gu Nianji's eyes suddenly lit up. Hua Xiaoheng's words were like a beam of light into her foggy mind. The problem she had been thinking about was suddenly solved. She quickly took out her phone to search. It was just as she had thought. She said excitedly, I know what the 365 letters of the poem stand for. Hua Xiaoheng and Zhao Liangzi exchanged a look. What is she talking about? Bai Shuang gave me a hint. The poem has a total of 86 words and 365 letters. I remember the address of the bank is 86 Bank Street. I've never been able to figure out what 365 letters mean. Gu Nianji was so excited that her little face was glowing. She firmly attracted Huo Xiaoheng's gaze. He reached out to stroke Gu Nianji's hair and said with a smile, "No hurry. Speak slowly." Okay. Gu Nianji squinted at him and smiled comfortably. She was as comfortable as a spoiled little kitten. Zhao Yangzi closed his eyes. "If you have something to say, say it. Don't show off your affection." Gu Nianji turned to look at him and smiled. This 365 should represent the number of the bank's safety deposit box. Safe deposit box. Yeah. Safe deposit box. Gu Nianji showed Huo Xiaoheng and Zhao Yangzi the information she had just found on her phone. "Look, I looked up how to rent safe on this bank's website. Deposit box. These numbers starting from 1 were the choices they provided. Of course, many of the numbers are already occupied, which means that the safe has already been rented. Just like hotel rooms, banks would also provide safe deposit boxes for customers to rent and store valuables." If Gu Nianji's guess was correct, perhaps there was something they needed in the bank's safety deposit box 365. Huo Xiaoheng's brows relaxed and he smiled slowly. "That makes sense. Looks like it's in this safe." "But," Gu Nianji spread her hands and said frankly, "we don't have any proof. How can we request to open this safe?" Zhao Yangzi whistled and smiled. "You don't have to worry about that. Do we still need to do it if we have proof?" He winked at her. Gu Nianji was stunned. "Huh. You can open a bank's safety deposit box without proof or a key. Is that what I think it means? If you don't say it, we can still be good friends." Zhao Yangzi sneered and shook his finger at her. "Alex is the best at opening safes." Gu Nianji, Huo Xiaoheng stood up as if nothing had happened and said calmly, "It seems that I have to be present for this matter." "Oh." Gu Nianji immediately objected. "They might be waiting for you. What if it's a trap?" "Why would it be a trap? If it's a trap, then I won't go?" Huo Xiaoheng pressed his hand on Gu Nianji's shoulder nonchalantly. "If Bai Shuang comes to trap you later, you can leak this information. Don't worry about anything else." Since the other party's target was him, he didn't mind playing with them. Huo Xiaoheng liked this kind of excitement and uncertainty. Every minute and second of play was like a heartbeat. Huo Xiaoheng left in a hurry, and Gu Nianji was extremely worried. She crossed her arms and walked in circles in the bedroom. Zhao Yangzi was dizzy and snapped, "Sit down. I'll make you faint if you keep walking." Gu Nianji, she sat down next to Zhao Yangzi and looked at him in confusion. "Aren't you worried at all?" "Don't worry, those people are no match for Alex." Zhao Yangzi was very confident in Huo Xiaoheng. Gu Nianji shook her head. "I'm not talking about Alex, I'm talking about Bai Shuang." Zhao Yangzi lowered his head. After a long time he whispered, "I hope we all guessed wrong. I hope it's not too late." Gu Nianji put her hand on his shoulder and pressed encouragingly. "Don't be discouraged. Come on." During dinner, Bai Shuang came over as expected. She brought a bottle of red wine and said with a smile, "I'm here to freeload. Am I welcome?" Zhao Yangzi looked at her fiery red dress and delicate face. Their eyes met, and it was like a sledgehammer hitting Zhao Yangzi's heart. His eyes were a little sore, but he acted as if nothing had happened. He smiled and said, "Welcome, welcome. Come and sit." He took the initiative to get a knife, fork and chopsticks for Bai Shuang and asked her what she wanted. Bai Shuang looked at their table. There were fried yellow croaker and butter, steamed prawns and scallops, and a few large lobsters. She couldn't help but laugh. "You guys really know how to enjoy yourselves. I'm coming." She sat down next to Gu Nianji and took the wine glass to pour her wine. Gu Nianji covered the wine glass with her hand and said with a smile, "I can't drink. You drink with brothers, eh? Right?" Bai Shuang was a little embarrassed and had no choice but to pour Zhao Yangzi another glass. Zhao Yangzi rubbed the wine glass and said with a smile, "I have something to do tomorrow. It's not appropriate to drink today." "You have something to do tomorrow? What is it? Do you need my help?" Bai Shuang said with great interest. "I'm free for the next few days." Gu Nianji glanced at Zhao Yangzi and got his permission. She turned to look at Bai Shuang and said softly, "I guessed what the 365 letters mean." "That's amazing." Bai Shuang blinked and her face flushed. She was extremely excited. "What does it mean? I thought about it all day but I couldn't figure it out." Her expression was too exaggerated. The corners of Gu Nianji's mouth twitched. She said casually, It should be the number of the safety deposit boxes rented by the bank for customers. You mean safe? Deposit. Bai Shuang slapped Gu Nianji on the shoulder. You're so smart. I think it must be. That's for sure. Gu Nianji smiled brightly. Brother Zhe said so too. He's already sent a message to Huoxiao. Zhao Liangzi nodded calmly. Huoxiao will come tomorrow. He will definitely be there in person for such a big event. Bai Shuang's pupils suddenly shrank. She stammered, Huoxiao will really come tomorrow? Of course. Zhao Liangzi looked straight at her. Isn't that what you want? I was just asking. The smile on Bai Shuang's face faded. She didn't eat dinner anymore. She stood up and said, I just remembered that I have something to do. I'll leave now. As he hurried to the door, he seemed to have remembered something. He turned around and said, See you tomorrow? A long time after she left, Zhao Liangzi finally looked away as if nothing had happened. He turned around and saw that only the shell of the large lobster was left in front of him. He was furious. Gu Nianji, you can just eat your own. You still want to eat mine. Gu Nianji giggled and quickly ran out of the restaurant. Bai Shuang returned to her room, her heart thumping wildly. After a long silence, she dialed Li Dishi's contact number and left a voicemail. The target has taken the bait. He will arrive in Cape Town tomorrow. When Li Dishi received this news, he also found out that a ship had quietly entered the harbor at night. He was convinced that Huoxiao had snuck over at night. He also gave an order to his own people, activate Plan A, I will personally command. Even if Huoxiao didn't show up in the end, it didn't matter. He would directly kidnap Gu Nianji and there was no need to worry that Huoxiao wouldn't follow. This was today's third chapter. Chapter 1202, Seeing Through Not Saying Anything. Today is the 6th day of the double monthly votes for October. Everyone hurry up and cast your guaranteed monthly votes. Good night, sweethearts. Chapter 1212. The next day at dawn, Zhao Liangzi got up and went for a morning run. Unsurprisingly, he ran into Bai Shuang in red sportswear again. The two of them jogged side by side on the sidewalk of the hotel area facing the rising sun. Zhao Liangzi felt terrible, but he still pretended to be nonchalant and laughed with Bai Shuang. Bai Shuang, why do you suddenly like wearing red clothes? I remember you used to hate red clothes? Bai Shuang smiled and narrowed her eyes. Really? I don't remember before. I think I look good in red now, so I'm wearing it. As she spoke, she ran around Zhao Liangzi. Do I look good? Do I look good in red? She was panting from running, and her fair face had been tanned to a light honey color. Her full lips were slightly parted, and her big eyes were brighter than the sun that had just risen. In Zhao Liangzi's eyes, her beauty at this moment was unparalleled. But the more beautiful she was, the more Zhao Liangzi's heart ached. Finally, he couldn't run anymore and gradually slowed down. I have to go back. Nianji is alone in the room. She will be scared when she wakes up. Bai Shuang was slightly jealous. She is already an adult. Do you still treat her like a child? She is less than 20 years old. In my eyes, she is still a little girl who needs to be taken care of. Zhao Liangzi said coldly, she is not like you. You can take care of yourself. Bai Shuang almost vomited blood. Her chest rose and fell violently. After a while, she reluctantly apologized. It's my fault. I shouldn't have targeted Gu Nianji. You were wrong in the first place. Why did you target her? Zhao Liangzi glared at her, but looking at Bai Shuang's sweaty cheeks and listless eyes, he couldn't say anything more to reprimand her. The two of them stood on the tree-lined path in the hotel area and looked at each other silently. The sea breeze blew from not far away, bringing with it a slightly cool sea breeze from the Atlantic Ocean. It blew away the impatience in their hearts. Have you had breakfast? Zhao Liangzi looked at his watch and asked, breaking the silence between the two of them. Bai Shuang shook her head. I was in a hurry to run this morning and didn't eat anything. Go eat at my place. Zhao Liangzi turned to leave. I have to make breakfast for Gu Nianji in the morning anyway. We won't be able to finish it. Bai Shuang's heart warmed and she smiled as she followed. Halfway there, she quietly reached out and grabbed Zhao Liangzi's hand. Zhao Liangzi's footsteps paused for a moment, but he didn't shake off Bai Shuang's hand. Instead, he let her hold it. He looked straight ahead and continued walking forward. However, by the time they reached the door of the apartment-style hotel's courtyard, Zhao Liangzi had already taken the initiative to hold Bai Shuang's hand. The two of them didn't let go until they walked into the kitchen. Gu Nianji was woken up by the rich aroma of porridge. She lifted the quilt, went to the bathroom to wash up, changed into sportswear and went to the dining room. The rooms here were all so-called open-plan kitchens. The dining room and the kitchen were almost one, separated only by a set of sofas. Gu Nianji stood at the entrance to the dining room and couldn't help but blink when she saw the two busy figures in the kitchen. She recognized Zhao Liang's figure, but the woman who was busy beside him in red sportswear seemed to be Bai Shuang. What was she doing in their kitchen so early in the morning? Gu Nianji walked in suspiciously and knocked on the kitchen counter. "Brother Zhe, good morning." Zhao Liangzi looked back. "You're up? Did you wash your face and brush your teeth?" "I did." Gu Nianji nodded and looked at the woman in red sportswear next to him. It was indeed Bai Shuang. Bai Shuang turned around and smiled at her ingratiatingly. "Nianji, you're up? Why don't you sleep a little longer? Breakfast will be ready soon." The corners of Gu Nianji's mouth twitched. "Good morning, Miss Bai." She walked to the dining room and sat down. She kept rubbing her phone, wondering when Hua Xiaoheng would come. But after waiting all morning, there was no news from Hua Xiaoheng. After breakfast, Bai Shuang dawdled around with them for a while. Several times she looked expectantly in the direction of the door, but no one came in. Both Gu Nianji and Zhao Liangzi knew what she was looking forward to, and their feelings were very complicated. Gu Nianji still had hope for Bai Shuang. Zhao Liangzi had almost completely given up. For him now, every second he could spend with Bai Shuang was one more second of memories he could have in the future. He knew that the two of them really had no future. The three of them chatted aimlessly in the living room. It was almost noon, but Hua Xiaoheng still hadn't come. Bai Shuang was wondering if she should find a reason to stay a little longer when her phone rang. She picked it up and saw that it was Li Dishi's secret number. Bai Shuang stood up calmly and said with a smile, "My captain is looking for me. I'll leave first." After a few steps, she asked again, "When do you plan to go to the bank? If you need help, just ask." Zhao Liangzi also stood up and said calmly, "There were guests here before, so it wasn't appropriate for us to say that we wanted to leave. Now that the guests have left, we can go out to the bank." He treated Bai Shuang as a guest and spoke in a very distant tone. Bai Shuang's expression changed. Her lips trembled violently, and tears were about to flow from her eyes. But she took a deep breath and looked up at the crystal chandelier on the ceiling. She suppressed her tears and said, "I'm sorry to have wasted your time." She turned and left in a hurry, and Zhao Liangzi also took Gu Nianji out the door. When Bai Shuang returned to her hotel room, she had already recovered. She opened the door with a smile and saw Li Dishi sitting on the sofa in her living room. Behind him stood 4 burly men in black suits. The 4 burly men were all wearing sunglasses, and it was obvious that they were of the Germanic race. Bai Shuang nodded. "Mr. Li Dishi, what can I do for you?" Li Dishi asked with a smile. "I should be asking you that. You have a good relationship with Gu Nianji and the others. You stayed with them all morning." Bai Shuang smiled and said, "Of course. I already said that the two of them are easy to deal with. Hua Xiaoheng is the difficult one." Her expression darkened as she said, "Hua Xiaoheng hasn't come yet. He is so cunning. Could it be that he didn't take the bait?" Li Dishi had been paying close attention to Bai Shuang's expression, and her every move didn't escape his scrutinizing eyes. He could see that Bai Shuang hadn't received professional training, so she wasn't very proficient in many areas. But because of her father, she was destined to never stand with the Huaxia Empire again. Li Dishi was very confident in this aspect of Bai Shuang. He was just worried that she wasn't experienced enough and would be seen through by Zhao Liangzi and the others. After repeatedly asking Bai Shuang about Zhao Liangzi and Gu Nianji and confirming that she hadn't given herself away, Li Dishi nodded with satisfaction and said, "You don't have to worry about Hua Xiaoheng. Our people saw him get off the boat last night and arrive in Cape Town." Bai Shuang's eyes suddenly lit up. "Really? He's already here?" "Yes." Li Dishi stood up. "Do you know when they are going to make a move? You must go with them." The corners of Bai Shuang's eyes twitched twice and she whispered, "They are going to the bank now. I will let them go first, and if they need help, I will help." Li Dishi was even more satisfied. "Okay, don't act too eager. The best way is for them to come and beg you." In Li Dishi's opinion, if Bai Shuang took the initiative to go with them, the other party might be suspicious. But if the other party was helpless, Bai Shuang would make a move and gain their trust. Bai Shuang's eyes flickered twice and she said, "But how can I help them? Why don't you give me the key to the bank safe, and I will find a chance to pretend that I got it from the bank?" Li Dishi sighed and shook his head. "If I had the key, I wouldn't have gone through so much trouble to lure them here." "Huh? You don't have the key either? Then, It's useless if they can't open the bank safe. Bai Shuang said involuntarily, feeling nervous. She never expected that even Li Dishi didn't have the key, but in Li Dishi's eyes, although the things in the bank safe were important, they were definitely not as important as Gunyanji. If they could kidnap Gunyanji for research, the data would simply become a few pieces of waste paper. Could data from more than half a century ago be compared to a living person? Gunyanji had everything they wanted. However, he wouldn't tell Bai Shuang all of this. This was because he and Bai Shuang had a common enemy, and that was Hua Xiaoheng. Bai Shuang wanted to kill Hua Xiaoheng because the hatred for killing her father was absolutely irreconcilable. And Li Dishi wanted to kill Hua Xiaoheng purely because of Gunyanji. He knew very well that in order to fully possess Gunyanji, he had to kill Hua Xiaoheng first. Otherwise, he would face Hua Xiaoheng's omnipresent pursuit. He would spend the rest of his life on the run. If that was the case, so what if he had Gunyanji in his hands? He couldn't calm down to do research, and it was even more impossible to produce any results. To be honest, Li Dishi didn't have the confidence to fight Hua Xiaoheng and escape unscathed. He felt that the most certain way was to hide in the dark and use the hands of the traitors to kill Hua Xiaoheng. From the previous Hong Kong Quan to the current Bai Shuang, they were all life-threatening talismans that he had prepared for Hua Xiaoheng. Last time, Hua Xiaoheng was lucky and was even able to escape from the natural magnetic field at sea. This time he was thousands of miles away from the Huaxia Empire. He wanted to see who else would come to save him in Gunyanji. Li Dishi showed a confident smile on his face. He walked to Bai Shuang's side and patted her on the shoulder. Don't worry, Gunyanji is very smart. I believe she should be able to find a way to open the safe. Bai Shuang pursed her lips and asked skeptically. But they don't have any credentials or identities. How can they find the safe? She was afraid that they wouldn't even be able to enter the basement where the safe was placed. I'll have to rely on you, my dear. Dear, Li Dishi said, snapping his fingers behind him. One of the 4 bodyguards behind the sofa took off his sunglasses and came to Li Dishi's side. Li Dishi pointed at him and said to Bai Shuang, "This is the executive of that French bank. He is actually one of my people. He has the credentials for the safe and a topographic map of the basement. How about it? Find an opportunity to leak some information to Gunyanji and the others. When they return from the bank in defeat, it will be time for you to step in." At this time, Gunyanji and Zhao Liangzi had already gone to the bank. The two of them walked around the lobby and didn't ask a single word about the safe. They only asked about opening an account, then sat down in the lounge area under the pretense of waiting for someone. The two of them took out their phones, sat on the left and right sides of the sofa, and began to play with their phones. In fact, they had connected to the free Wi-Fi that the bank provided to its customers and hacked into their network system. This was the first chapter of the day, chapter 1203, Her beauty at this moment is unmatched. Today was the 7th and final day of the double monthly votes in October. Everyone hurry up and vote if you have monthly votes. The second chapter was at 1 p.m., and the third chapter was at 8 p.m. Moi. Chapter 1213. Take a look at the ticket warehouse and see if there are any monthly votes left. If there are 5 votes, then kiss me. If there are still votes, please give the Major General 2 monthly votes. It's all up to you guys. Chapter 1214. Perhaps because this bank was located on the African continent and had the unique arrogance of Europeans as colonists, they looked down on the intelligence of the locals. Therefore, the security of the bank's network system was perfunctory, but it was better than nothing. Gunyanji and Zhao Liangzi had originally planned to act together and concentrate their superior strength to deal with a port. This way they could achieve their goal in a fixed time. In the end, the two of them hadn't acted at the same time. Gunyanji tested it alone and found that the port was only protected by a very simple password composed of any 4 letters. After testing, they found that the password composition here was relatively backward. It could only be composed of letters, and numbers and other arbitrary symbols couldn't be used in the password. The combination of 4 arbitrary letters was 26 by 26 by 26 asterisk 26, a total of 456,976 combinations. Of course, it was very cumbersome to test these 400,000 combinations by manpower, but if they used a small program using the exhaustive method, it would only take less than a second to find them. Gunyanji looked at the password that ran on her phone, ABCD, and shook her head speechlessly. How careless must they be to use such an idiotic password combination for the external port of a large bank? She sent a text to Zhao Liangzi. I found the password. Zhao Liangzi looked at the ABCD password but wasn't surprised at all. He had been in this place for a few months and couldn't be more familiar with the quality and attitude of the people here. This was indeed something that the IT network managers here would do. It was because it was difficult for them to recruit really capable programmers to work on the database admin. Admin? After finding the password to enter the intranet port, Gu Nianji and Zhao Liangzi successfully hacked in. After entering, the two of them split up. Zhao Liangzi was more professional. He focused on the overall network system to figure out the software and hardware used by the bank, and then left a Trojan backdoor inside. Gu Nianji mainly looked for safe deposit box related information. This part should be in the operation module, business division. Gu Nianji's fingers nimbly slid on her phone, and within a few minutes she found the bank's processing safe deposit box's branch system. This was a very simple SQL database. It recorded every safe deposit box's details. And safe deposit box's number was the database's primary key. Every key was not repeated. Gu Nianji figured out the SQL primary key. She immediately used 365 to search and immediately found the safe they were looking for. Happiness came so quickly that Gu Nianji couldn't believe her eyes. Glancing at their watches, it took them less than 5 minutes to find this message from the time they sat down on the sofa and took out their phones. Isn't this too easy? Gu Nianji muttered, worried that it was a trap, so she used her robo.exe program to go in and take a look. This was a small program that she wrote when she had nothing better to do. Like a mind-detecting robot, she would first go in and take a look. If the other party had an internal exploration program, her robo.exe program would be treated as an intruder. In this way, she would be able to understand the security measures of the other party through the information transmitted by robo.exe, as well as the emergency strategy taken against hackers. Her robo.exe entered the other party's system as if there was no one there. It quickly circled around without triggering any alarm system. This meant that either the security of the other party's system was so bad that they didn't notice an intruder at all, or perhaps the other party did not set up any system security at all, thinking that the system's intranet would not be breached. Gu Nianji probed for a long time, and after confirming that the other party really didn't notice, she entered the other party's banking system with confidence. After wandering around for a while, she finally understood why the security of this system was so weak. Because this bank only treated the computer network system as an auxiliary part of their business work. Unlike other places, the network had become an inseparable part of everyone's work. In this banking system, it was impossible to transfer money directly through the network. Therefore, they didn't care how high the security of the system was because these systems weren't mainly used for work, but like hard disks, they were used to store historical data. This kind of performance was exactly what Gu Nianji wanted. What she needed to find was the historical data. Quickly browsing through the system's history, Gu Nianji pulled up all the information related to SafeBox 365 and sent it to her cloud email for storage. She did all of this quickly and covertly. Before the other party could notice anything, Gu Nianji had already retreated unscathed and even secretly erased the login records of the port. Exiting the bank's internal system network, Gu Nianji opened her cloud email to check the content related to SafeBox 365. She looked for a long time, but only saw this paragraph written in the bank's records. SafeBox number, 365. Opening and rental date, XXXXXXXX. Gu Nianji's heart skipped a beat. This date was the year she was born. In other words, this safe box had been rented for 19 years. The annual rent was $50, paid in advance for 100 years. Gu Nianji clicked her tongue. It had been rented for so long. From Reinitz's tone, the data related to the genetic weaknesses of the Wuxia people was stored here? They had been investigating for so long, how could they not have found it? Gu Nianji's brows furrowed. From the moment Reinitz gave her the letter, their target had been pointing to this place, right? What was the purpose of luring her here step by step? Was everything here also a trap? Gu Nianji thought about it and ruled out this possibility. The other party had been advancing step by step. They had definitely not lured her here to set up a trap. If they had set up a trap, they would have arrested her a long time ago, just like they had done in the Alps. But they hadn't made a move yet, and they really wanted her to come to this bank. Seeing this safe box, Gu Nianji felt that it was most likely real. The real was fake, the fake was real, the real was fake, there was nothing too deceitful in war. This was the way people like Reinitz and Hua Xiaoheng did things. Gu Nianji pondered and continued to read. When she got to the tenant column, Gu Nianji saw a flamboyant English name, Kevin. It was her father's English name. Gu Nianji's tears fell instantly. She rubbed the high-definition signature on her phone and had a more intuitive understanding of her father. Looking at the conditions to open the safe, Gu Nianji shook her head speechlessly. This safe was placed on the 6th floor of the bank's underground warehouse, which was also the lowest floor. Complete identification and identification documents were required to enter the basement room where the safe was located. And to open this safe, what was needed was not a key. Gu Nianji was at her wit's end and sat on the sofa with her chin on her hand. It seemed like they really couldn't openly go down to the 6th floor to get close to this safe. If only they had Harry Potter's invisibility cloak. Gu Nianji tried to find happiness in her misery and tilted her head to look at Zhao Liangzi. Brother Zhe, I'm done here. What about you? Zhao Liangzi didn't even look up. I'm almost done too. The download will be over soon and then we'll go home. The two of them quickly packed their things, left the bank and returned to their apartment-style hotel. When they got out of the car at the door, Gu Nianji saw a black Hummer SUV parked along the street from their room. A tall man wearing a black t-shirt and black jeans leaned against the big tree in front of the door with his arms crossed, waiting for them to return. Seeing that they had arrived, the man raised his head and smiled at them. He had a familiar hooked nose, a full beard and big sunglasses. He walked methodically. It was Hua Xiaoheng's disguised appearance. He had finally appeared again. Zhao Liangzi's eyes lit up. He rushed up and said in surprise, Hua Xiao, you're finally here. Hua Xiaoheng patted Zhao Liangzi's shoulder and said calmly, yes, I'm here. In a small building not far away, Li Dishi, who was observing the situation with binoculars, nodded and said with a smile, it's Hua Xiaoheng. This is what he looks like after his disguise. He thinks no one knows, but Hong Kongquan has already revealed this information to us. Give the order to follow these people. When they make their move, we'll make our move. This was the second watch of the day, Chapter 1204, Safe Number 365. Today was the 7th and final day of the double monthly votes in October. Everyone who has monthly votes, hurry up and vote. It was 8 o'clock in the evening. Moi. Chapter 1215. Gu Nianji happily held onto Hua Xiaoheng's arm as they entered their rented service department. It was already afternoon, and the sun was scorching hot at 2 or 3 o'clock. Gu Nianji's little face was flushed, and her forehead was slightly peeling. Hua Xiaoheng looked at her face. You didn't use sunscreen? Gu Nianji, after so many things had happened and so many clues had been obtained, was it really okay for Hua Xiao to only focus on sunscreen? However, he was still elated. Gu Nianji smiled and rolled her eyes. I'll definitely use it tomorrow. Zhao Liangzi followed them in and overheard them talking about sunscreen. He smiled and said, it doesn't matter if it doesn't work. When I first came here I was sure I couldn't tan. Now all of you have seen it. He pointed to his dark, wheat-colored skin. Gu Nianji, she covered her face and ran to the master bedroom. I'm going to apply a facial mask. I hope it's not too late to make amends. After sending Gu Nianji away, Hua Xiaoheng quietly discussed their arrangements with Zhao Liangzi. There are a lot of people on the other side. It's confirmed that Li Dishi is leading the team. He should be harder to deal with than Reinitz. Zhao Liangzi's heart was dead. He was not nervous or afraid at all. It doesn't matter. We're going to the 6th floor of the bank's basement anyway. No matter how many people they have, can they all go down? Hua Xiaoheng and Gu Nianji had carefully studied the topographic map of the basement and discovered that the only way to get to the basement from above was through the elevator. This meant that they had to take control of the elevator first. Moreover, the elevator was very small and could not carry enough weight. It could only carry 4 people at a time. Any more and the elevator would be overweight and automatically stop working. Hua Xiaoheng shook his head solemnly. They've been planning this for a long time. They must have gone down there. Zhao Liangzi opened his mouth and said gloomily, what should we do? He didn't want to die before he succeeded. No matter what, he had to find the item and send Gu Nianji out first. Is it by Shuang? Zhao Liangzi gritted his teeth. Why don't we control her first? Hua Xiaoheng shook his head again and said calmly, Bai Shuang was their bait. If we make a move on Bai Shuang, what if we alert the enemy? Are we just going to let them do what they want? Zhao Liangzi's expression darkened even further. They have so many people. If we're not careful, we'll suffer heavy casualties even if we don't get wiped out. Hua Xiaoheng patted him on the shoulder and smiled. That won't happen. Don't be so pessimistic. Gu Nianji had just finished applying her facial mask and walked out. She listened one last time and knew it was very dangerous this time. But because Hua Xiaoheng and Zhao Liangzi were by her side, she actually didn't feel much danger. To her, danger was always relative. Sitting down next to Hua Xiaoheng, Gu Nianji said calmly, "Their target, other than the contents of the safe, is probably me." Hua Xiaoheng and Zhao Liangzi looked at her together, their faces expressionless. Zhao Liangzi clicked his tongue. "Nianji, can we not be so shameless? The target is you? Are you sure? Do you think you're a gold reserve or the biggest diamond on the blue planet?" Gu Nianji, Hua Xiaoheng was worried about adding to Gu Nianji's psychological burden, so he also comforted her. "Their main target this time isn't you. It's me." Was that supposed to be comforting? She was even more nervous now. Gu Nianji immediately grabbed Hua Xiaoheng's lapel and frowned. "Then why aren't you leaving? Are you going to stay here and let them make a nest of dumplings? There's no one in this world who wants to make a nest of dumplings out of me." Hua Xiaoheng saw that Gu Nianji was even more nervous, and he couldn't describe what he was feeling. In this girl's heart, he would always be more important than herself, right? He tightened his grip on Gu Nianji's shoulder. Gu Nianji's shoulder was a little painful from Hua Xiaoheng's grip, but she didn't care. She looked at Hua Xiaoheng intently and said with heartache, "It looks like they've been planning this for a long time. Hua Xiao, let's avoid it." They were unfamiliar with this place. Even if Hua Xiaoheng and the others were prepared, Gu Nianji felt that it would still be very dangerous. Who could guarantee that there would be no accidents in such a situation? Hua Xiaoheng smiled lightly and leaned over to kiss the back of her hand. "It's okay. Little Zay and I know what to do. Don't worry. Go and rest. We might not be able to sleep tonight." Gu Nianji looked at Zhao Liangzi and saw him nod slightly. She knew that they were going to talk business, and it wasn't appropriate for her to listen too much. "Okay, I'll go sleep for a while. Remember not to be too careless." Gu Nianji touched the mask on her face and regretted that she couldn't kiss Hua Xiaoheng. She returned to the master bedroom and of course couldn't fall asleep. Taking out her phone, she opened the topographic map of the bank and carefully looked at the situation in the basement. From the vertical section, the bank basement had 6 floors and was a rectangular shape that went straight up and down. The safe that her father had rented was placed in an inconspicuous corner at the bottom. If the other party had been prepared, where would they be lying in ambush? Gu Nianji's eyes widened as she looked for a place to hide, but it didn't take long before she yawned and fell asleep. Gu Nianji really wasn't interested in looking at the topographic map. In the living room outside, the doorbell rang. Hua Xiaoheng also stood up. "Someone's here to deliver food. I ordered it. I'll blend in with them and leave. We'll meet up at the bank." Hua Xiaoheng hadn't thought of using a substitute this time. He had used himself as bait to trick the cunning Li Dishi into coming personally. If he used a substitute, it would be too dangerous, and there was almost a 99% chance that the substitute wouldn't come back alive. He wasn't the kind of boss who would say, "Leave the danger to me and leave the honor to me." He couldn't do such a heartless thing. Moreover, Li Dishi was paranoid by nature and had previously changed plans at the last second during an operation. Therefore, Hua Xiaoheng was determined not to use a substitute. He wanted to create the effect of appearing and disappearing like a ghost, so that Li Dishi would be convinced of his arrival. Because Li Dishi was certain that only Hua Xiaoheng himself could escape his surveillance from time to time. If he couldn't even escape his surveillance, Li Dishi would doubt whether Hua Xiaoheng was the real Hua Xiaoheng. Zhao Liangzi had never doubted Hua Xiaoheng's style of taking the lead. He was the kind of chief who followed me on the battlefield, not an officer who ordered others to follow me. He nodded and asked Hua Xiaoheng to go into the inner room to change while he went to open the door. Outside the courtyard door, a group of black men in white uniforms pushed a dining cart. They smiled at Zhao Liangzi and said in English, "Hello, the food you ordered has been delivered." Zhao Liangzi opened the courtyard door and said with a smile, "Please come in." After the black men came in, Zhao Liangzi saw a woman in a red dress standing behind them. It was Bai Shuang. She looked at Zhao Liangzi with a smile and said, "I'm here to freeload again. Do you need my help?" "I don't need your help to eat and you can't help with anything else." Zhao Liangzi's eyes flashed as he teased Bai Shuang. "How do you know I can't help if you don't try?" Bai Shuang came uninvited and took the initiative to take his arm intimately. "Let's go inside and talk." Zhao Liangzi stood motionless with his hands in his trouser pockets. He stared fixedly at Bai Shuang's delicate and beautiful face, then suddenly lowered his head and pecked her on the lips. He whispered in her ear, "Are you sure you want to come in?" Bai Shuang was so flustered by his kiss that she almost lost her composure. It took a lot of effort to calm down. Bai Shuang smoothed her hair with her hand and looked at Zhao Liangzi with a faint smile. "Of course I'm sure. Otherwise why would I run over here myself?" Zhao Liangzi stopped talking and turned to enter the door. Bai Shuang followed him in. The dining room inside was originally quite large, but because of the 7 or 8 tall black waiters, the spacious dining room suddenly became small. Bai Shuang watched these people bustle about in the dining room before she placed the food on the long dining table. "You guys are going to have a buffet." Bai Shuang clicked her tongue. "Then I won't stand on ceremony." Zhao Liangzi smiled. "Of course we are all foodies. We can eat until we're full." After setting the plates, a few black waiters stayed to serve them. Several other black waiters pushed the dining cart out. Xiaoheng had already blended in with them. He disguised himself as a black man and left with them. Because this group of people was so dark, almost no one paid attention to what their facial features looked like. Xiaoheng didn't alarm anyone and quietly left the restaurant area. Bai Shuang pushed a can of beer to Zhao Liangzi and asked casually, "Did you find the safe?" "We found it, but it's useless," Zhao Liangzi said bluntly. "We don't have any credentials, so there's no way for the bank to open the safe for us." Not only could they not open it, but they didn't even have a chance to get close. Bai Shuang's eyes flashed and she whispered, "I know that bank executive. Why don't we ask him?" "A bank executive who can be summoned at your beck and call?" Zhao Liangzi sneered. "Bai Shuang, I haven't seen you for a few months. Your ability to talk has improved. You don't believe me?" Bai Shuang smiled faintly and took out her phone. "I'll make a call and see if he comes." "Why would he come? Because you're so beautiful?" Zhao Liangzi rolled his eyes. "Yes, because I'm beautiful. He's chasing me and lives nearby." Bai Shuang didn't want to show weakness and stabbed Zhao Liangzi with words. Not long after the call was made, the doorbell outside the door rang again. Bai Shuang smiled and got up. "He's here. I'll go pick him up." With that, she walked out leisurely like the hostess. The corners of Zhao Liangzi's mouth twitched and he slammed the table. This was the third chapter of the day, chapter 1205, Because I'm Beautiful. Today was the 7th and final day of October's double monthly votes. Everyone hurry up and vote if you have monthly votes. P.S. Thank you to Sir Hedgehog for your 20,000 reading points or book coins. Yesterday. Moi. Chapter 1216. Not long after, Bai Shuang walked in with a tall white man in a suit and leather shoes. She smiled and introduced him to little Zay. "This is my friend Big Ben." She then introduced Zhao Liangzi to the white man. "This is my former classmate." "Hello, Mr. Zhao." The man politely extended his hand. Although Zhao Liangzi was very upset, he still reached out and shook the man's hand. "Big Ben, come and sit down. You came at the right time. We have a sumptuous dinner." Bai Shuang warmly invited the white man to sit down. "Oh, you look really good." The man quickly became familiar and chatted with Zhao Liangzi. Zhao Liangzi wasn't as eloquent as Yin Shixiang, and he was in a bad mood, so he didn't say much. He only exchanged a few pleasantries. Bai Shuang smiled and drank for a while. She put a hand on the man's shoulder and said, "Honey, I have something to ask you. I don't know if you can do me a favor?" "Honey, as long as you say it, as long as I have it, I will definitely help." The man took Bai Shuang's hand and kissed the back of it. Zhao Liangzi's eyes were about to burst into flames. He raised his glass and drank it in one gulp. Bai Shuang acted as if she didn't see it. She leaned close to the man's ear and said in a very low voice, "My friend's relatives put a safe in the basement of your bank, but they forgot to bring their credentials. Can you help them open the safe and let them see what's inside?" The man shook his head regretfully. "No, even if we have the credentials, we can't open the safe without the key because we don't have the key here. For security reasons, the safe on the 6th floor of the basement implemented a complete destruction policy. In other words, if the customer didn't redeem it when the time came, the contents of the safe would be destroyed and not taken out to be owned by the bank. The rent here was more expensive than the upper floors, which was one of the reasons." "No key. We don't have it either." Bai Shuang blinked. "Then why don't you let us go in and take a look at the safe? Just look at the safe, take a picture of it, and then go back to the relative to identify it? See if he can remember where he put the key? If that's the case, I can consider it." "But The Caucasian man glanced at Zhao Yangzi. I can't make the decision on my own. I have to inform several colleagues. This was blatantly asking for bribes. Zhao Yangzi sneered in his heart and put on an expression that said, I understand. He looked at Bai Shuang with a faint smile. Didn't he say he was chasing you? Why would I still ask you for money? Bai Shuang looked a bit embarrassed. She curled her lips and said, friends are friends and business is business. These are two different things. As she spoke, she handed over a check that she had prepared in advance. This is a small token of our appreciation. Thank you for helping us. The Caucasian man gracefully placed the check into a hidden pocket inside his suit, smiling as if nothing had happened. He was still elegant and chatting cheerfully. During dinner for the three of them, only the sound of Bai Shuang and the white man chatting and laughing could be heard. Zhao Yangzi interjected a few times at first, but after a while he stopped talking altogether and just drank one mouthful after another. Unfortunately, it was just beer. No matter how much he drank, he wouldn't get drunk. However, it made his stomach uncomfortable and he had to run to the bathroom several times. When Gu Nianji woke up, it was already around 6 o'clock in the evening. She got up to wash her face in the bathroom, changed her clothes and went out to find something to eat. When she suddenly saw Bai Shuang flirting with a strange Caucasian man in the restaurant, Gu Nianji quickly stopped in her tracks and looked at them in surprise. She then looked around. Yes, she was still in her hotel room. Was this a dream? Gu Nianji blinked hard again. Bai Shuang saw Gu Nianji's expression and laughed. She waved at her. Nianji, come over for dinner. I didn't see you just now. I thought you weren't here. The Caucasian man sitting next to Bai Shuang had a flash of excitement in his eyes. This was the Gu Nianji that their leader wanted to kidnap. His hand holding the knife and fork trembled slightly, making a slight clanking sound on the dinner plate. Gu Nianji glanced at his hand quietly, and her cold eyes moved to Bai Shuang. She pursed her lips and asked lightly, Where's Brother Zhe? Why are you sitting in our restaurant eating? Little Zhe drank too much just now and went to the bathroom. It's not convenient for me. Before Bai Shuang could finish speaking, she saw Gu Nianji turn around and leave in the direction of the bathroom. Bai Shuang stared at her back for a while before looking away as if nothing had happened. She also took a sip of beer. The Caucasian man said softly, Bai, it seems that Mr. Zhao loves you very much. He looked at me like he wanted to tear me into pieces. Bai Shuang smiled and wiped her mouth elegantly with a napkin. She said almost inaudibly, You think I'm lying to you? I told you that little Zhe loves me so I can get between them. The Caucasian man completely believed her now. Because Zhao Yangzi's painful and jealous gaze was completely subconscious, it couldn't be deceived. If this could be deceived, all those Oscar-winning actors would be dead. Okay, I'll tell our leader the news. I'll go first and send you the topographic map later. Take them to the basement after 9 o'clock tonight. Remember, it must be after 9 o'clock. Why must it be after 9 o'clock? Because there's a large networking event at our bank today. 7 to 9 o'clock is the speech and cocktail hour. After 9 o'clock is the dance party and rock and roll time. Bai Shuang understood. This meant that the security at the bank's basement would be lax after 9 o'clock today. Before that, the security would be extra tight. Actually, can't we change the time? Bai Shuang hesitated. If the bank was holding a networking event today, the local police would also send police to maintain order. The Caucasian man shook his head and said with a smile, Bai, you don't understand. This is the best time to fish in troubled waters. You see that there are a lot of people on guard, but in fact, because there are so many people, everyone feels that nothing will happen at all, so they will be more relaxed than usual. Besides, there's a lot of traffic there today, so it's the best cover. There's usually no one there at night. Do you think you can get close? The Caucasian man scratched Bai Shuang's nose and praised her as a little cutie. He then kissed her on the cheek and stood up. I have to go. The networking event starts at 7 o'clock, so I have to attend. That's my alibi. He winked at Bai Shuang, took out his phone, and waved at her before leaving Gu Nianji's small hotel suite. Not long after he left, a map of the bank's security topography tonight was sent to Bai Shuang's phone. It contained the positions and equipment of all the security personnel and military and police personnel tonight, as well as the security facilities of the bank building and the basement, as well as the password to the elevator to the basement and the password to the basement door. With this information, they could avoid the security personnel and security facilities and enter the basement where the bank's safe deposit boxes were stored unimpeded. In the bathroom, Zhao Yangzi splashed water on his face to calm his feverish mind. Gu Nianji stood at the door and looked at him worriedly. she whispered, "Brother Zhe, are you better?" Zhao Yangzi looked at Gu Nianji's frown in the mirror and smiled. "I'm fine. Don't worry, Nianji." He turned around and said calmly, "I'm still waiting to show off my skills tonight. How could something happen to me?" "Who was that man?" Gu Nianji bit her lip gently and still managed to ask. She didn't want to meddle in other people's business, but looking at Zhao Yangzi, she knew he had a lot of things to say and couldn't say them out loud. Zhao Yangzi's footsteps paused. After a long silence he said, "Bai Shuang's boyfriend." Gu Nianji, well, these two people were really good at messing around. One had a girlfriend and the other had a boyfriend, and they were deeply attracted to each other. Gu Nianji felt that the relationship between her and Hua Xiaoheng was much simpler. She patted Zhao Yangzi's shoulder sympathetically and said angrily, "Bai Shuang told you that she's her boyfriend? This is too much. She brought her boyfriend to our place for dinner. How shameless can she be?" Gu Nianji was filled with righteous indignation. Zhao Yangzi couldn't help but laugh when he saw how she and Zhao Yangzi shared a common enemy. He patted her head. "Little girl, what do you know?" After a pause, he smiled sheepishly and said, "Actually, Bai Shuang said it was her suitor." Gu Nianji, she followed Zhao Yangzi back to the restaurant and saw that the white man was no longer there. Under the bright crystal lights in the restaurant, Bai Shuang sat alone. Her red dress was like fire and she was incomparably beautiful. However, there was an indescribable loneliness on her face, which formed a strong contrast with her red dress. Even Gu Nianji's heart couldn't help but skip a beat when she saw it. She thought to herself, how did Bai Shuang become so beautiful? It was obvious that beauty was not in appearance but in temperament. True beauties were unknowingly captivating. It was completely impossible to tell how beautiful they or he looked. By the time you realized it, you had already been captured. Zhao Yangzi's expression was extremely pained. The woman he loved was getting more and more beautiful, but she was getting further and further away from him. Bai Shuang looked up slightly and saw Zhao Yangzi and Gu Nianji standing at the door of the restaurant looking at her. She immediately perked up, sat up straight and said with a smile, "Little Zhe, are you feeling better? Nianji, come over for dinner." "Where's Hua Xiao? Is he here? I have something to tell you." As she spoke, she raised her hand to look at her watch. "We still have 2 hours to prepare. This is the first night watch for the day." Chapter 1206, Arrow on the Bow. Thank you everyone for your monthly tickets for the double period. I will continue to watch until the end of the month this month. Thank God the double period is finally over. The second night watch at 1 p.m., and the third night watch at 8 p.m. Moi. Chapter 1217. 2 hours to prepare? Prepare for what? Gu Nianji looked at Zhao Yangzi. "Did I miss anything while I was sleeping?" Zhao Yangzi pulled her to the table and sat down. "Let's eat dinner first." Gu Nianji sat down quietly and looked at the dinner on the table. There was steamed lobster tail, which was her favorite dish since coming to Cape Town. The sweetness and tenderness of the lobster meat were all expressed in the thick lobster tail. The most delicious part of the entire lobster was probably only the tail of the lobster. There were 4 lobster tails on the plate in front of Gu Nianji, arranged in the shape of a cross. She cut the lobster with a knife, hooked the tender lobster meat from inside with a fork and put it in her mouth. She closed her eyes and hummed. It was so delicious. Every taste bud was soothed. Although it was only a small piece of lobster meat, it was already a feast for the taste. She couldn't even bear to swallow it. In contrast to Gu Nianji's leisurely enjoying dinner, Zhao Yangzi and Bai Shuang were almost at each other's throats. The two glared at each other and their eyes seemed to be spewing fire. After a while, Zhao Yangzi asked stiffly, "Where is your boyfriend?" "I don't have a boyfriend," Bai Shuang said without hesitation. "What are you talking about?" "Oh, I thought Big Ben was chasing you." Zhao Yangzi tapped his fingers on the table. "You still won't admit it? Oh, you're my boyfriend just because you're chasing me?" "Zhao Yangzi, I chased you so I'm your girlfriend?" Bai Shuang snorted. "Yes." Zhao Yangzi suddenly said loudly, "You chased me so you're my girlfriend. Do you want it 2-time?" Cough, cough, cough. Gu Nianji choked on Zhao Yangzi's robber logic, and almost choked. Bai Shuang smiled and said, "Look, even Nianji is shocked. It shows how ridiculous what you just said was." Zhao Yangzi pursed his lips, dragged over a plate of steak and cut it fiercely with a knife. The knife and plate made a squeaking sound, and it was so unpleasant that it almost caused a heart attack. Gu Nianji covered her ears with her hands and shook her head at Zhao Yangzi. Brother Zay, that's enough. You almost cut the plate in half. Zhao Yangzi rolled his eyes at her, but his hands relaxed. He didn't use so much strength to rub the knife against the plate. Bai Shuang sneered. She took out her phone and forwarded the message she had just received to Gu Nianji's phone. She said, Nianji, I just asked my friend who is a bank executive and asked him how to look at the safe without any credentials. This is the suggestion he gave me. There are also some data and topographic maps. Take a look for yourself. This message should have been sent to Zhao Yangzi, but Bai Shuang felt like she was about to burst into flames just by looking at him. In a fit of pique, she sent it directly to Gu Nianji. Gu Nianji grunted and took out her phone to look at it. Sure enough, Bai Shuang sent the bank's security topographic map to her mobile phone. On it were the positions of all the security personnel and military and police personnel tonight, as well as their equipment. There were also notes on the security facilities of the bank building and the basement, as well as the elevator password to the basement and the basement door password. Gu Nianji nodded and smiled as she read. Not bad, not bad. Tonight is indeed a good opportunity. But when is Hua Xiao coming? Now they didn't have to worry about mentioning Hua Xiaoheng in front of Bai Shuang, because they had already said before that Hua Xiaoheng would come here to look at the safe. Zhao Yangzi said without looking up. He should be here soon. Hua Xiaoheng did arrive soon. Gu Nianji had just finished eating 4 steamed lobster tails when Hua Xiaoheng pushed the door open with the sea breeze. He wore a low cap on his head, a very yuppie hunting suit, and a pair of Black Eagle military boots on his long legs. After coming in, he took off his sunglasses and smiled at Bai Shuang. Miss Bai, we meet again. Bai Shuang also nodded at him. Her voice was a little shaky. Hua Xiao is here. Did your trip go smoothly this time? I met 2 people who were following me, but I've already shaken them off. Hua Xiaoheng sat down beside Gu Nianji and picked up the steak from the table to eat. Bai Shuang nodded and repeated what she had just said. She emphasized that they had to go to the bank basement after 9 o'clock in the evening. The time before that was not very convenient. Hua Xiaoheng looked at the security map on Gu Nianji's phone and said calmly, It depends. I think we still have to enter the bank building first, and then go to the basement at 9 o'clock. How about your cards? It was true that an expert could tell right from the start. Gu Nianji immediately agreed. I think that's the safest way. Everyone enters before 7 o'clock. This is actually a good time to take advantage of the situation. After entering, they could split up and meet in front of the basement door. Bai Shuang thought about it and also agreed. Then I'll go get a few invitations for you. How many of you are going? Hua Xiaoheng glanced at her and said dryly, Just the 3 of us. Bai Shuang, she left the table and walked to the door, but couldn't help turning back halfway. Just the 3 of you? Don't you think there are too few people? We're not going to steal anything. We're just going to look at the safe. Why are there too few people? Gu Nianji frowned. I think it's enough. Hua Xiaoheng nodded. Yes, 3 people are indeed enough. Bai Shuang's gaze wandered over Hua Xiaoheng's face. She couldn't tell what he was thinking. She turned to look at Zhao Yangzi. He still looked angry as if Bai Shuang owed him millions. Her eyes dimmed as she said, In that case, then 3 invitations. Hua Xiaoheng thanked her. Thank you for your trouble. It's my pleasure. Bai Shuang nodded and left their room. After Bai Shuang left, Gu Nianji quickly asked Hua Xiaoheng, Is it really just the 3 of us? It's fake. Hua Xiaoheng quietly forked a cut steak and put it in his mouth. I've already set it up. The 3 of us will be the last to enter. Gu Nianji quickly forwarded the security map that Bai Shuang had sent her to Hua Xiaoheng's phone. She added, Bai Shuang got this from her bank executive friend. Hua Xiaoheng picked up his phone and looked at it intently. After a while he said, Her friend is not bad. The map is really detailed. Zhao Yangzi sneered. Of course she's not bad. She has the idea of pursuing her. She won't hesitate to cheat and accept bribes. Hua Xiaoheng was speechless. He turned to look at Gu Nianji. Did little Zay take the wrong medicine? I didn't take my medicine. Zhao Yangzi stood up. I'll go get ready. We'll leave immediately. He went back to the room and changed into a tuxedo with a small bow tie around his neck. When he came out, Bai Shuang had already returned with 4 invitations. She was explaining to Hua Xiaoheng, I asked a friend for 4 invitations because it includes family members. When the time comes, you and Nianji will go together and little Zay and I will go together. There won't be any problems at all. Hua Xiaoheng smiled faintly. Thank you, Miss Bai. You're welcome, Hua Xiao. Bai Shuang didn't dare look Hua Xiaoheng in the eyes. Her eyes flickered as she looked at Zhao Yangzi. This guy was glaring at her like a tiger watching its prey. It was as if he wanted to eat her up. Seeing this, Gunyinji quickly livened up the atmosphere. Do I need to change? But I think I'm very comfortable in this. She was wearing a smoky gray pantsuit with a small blazer that was perfectly tailored. Every time she wore it, it accentuated her extremely rare figure. It was actually very rare for her to be so well developed with her weight of less than 100 pounds. Hua Xiaoheng glanced at her. No need to change. This is very good. Bai Shuang glanced at Zhao Yangzi and said with a smile, Little Zhe, let's go to the ball as partners. Zhao Yangzi was about to refuse when Hua Xiaoheng said calmly, Miss Bai brought the invitations. Cooperate. This is an order. This was the second watch of the day, chapter 1207, Forced to Send. It was 8 o'clock in the evening. Moi. Chapter 1218. Hua Xiaoheng's words were in order. Zhao Yangzi had no choice but to listen. Although he felt uncomfortable, he still nodded, Okay, I will cooperate with Miss Bai. Hua Xiaoheng looked at the bank security map that Gunyinji had forwarded to him for a while. He also had this kind of security topographic map, but it was from a different angle from the one Gunyinji had forwarded. He compared it with what he had set up beforehand and found two inconspicuous key points. If someone hid here and fired a shot, they would be in a very passive situation. Hua Xiaoheng's fingers tapped on the phone screen a few times to make adjustments to his previous commands. Two of the field agents who had been lurking in advance were moved away from their positions. The other one was placed at a relatively high place, just enough to overlook the two nodes that could give them an overview of the entire situation. After dinner, the four of them got into the car and drove to the downtown financial district. The four of them didn't speak much along the way. Only Gunyinji occasionally broke the silence and teased Zhao Yangzi to lighten the mood. Bai Shuang was much quieter than before. Perhaps it was because she felt that she had nothing to say to Zhao Yangzi, or perhaps it was because Hua Xiaoheng was in the car so she was not as open as before. Hua Xiaoheng was still in disguise and looked very different from his original appearance. However, his tall stature was the same as always. Standing next to Gunyinji, they looked like a perfect couple. When they got out of the car, Gunyinji held onto Hua Xiaoheng's arm with a sweet smile on her face. It didn't look like she was participating in a secret operation, but was actually attending a banquet with Hua Xiaoheng. Bai Shuang also held Zhao Yangzi's arm. She pinched Zhao Yangzi with a smile and said softly, Watch your image. If you act like this, people will think that I'm holding you hostage. Zhao Yangzi was speechless. He sighed in his heart and put on a decent smile on his face. He walked forward with Bai Shuang, and every step he took was like walking on the edge of a blade. The four of them showed their invitations at the entrance of the bank and were successfully let in by the guard. One of Li Dishi's assistants was hiding on a certain floor of the building opposite the bank. He was using high-powered binoculars to observe the heavy traffic in front of the bank across the street. Seeing Bai Shuang enter the bank with two men and a woman, the man quickly sent a message to Li Dishi. The target has entered. Target has entered the battlefield. Li Dishi looked at the video and nodded with a smile. Let's go in too. One after another, their people took the invitations and snuck in. As soon as Gunyinji, Hua Xiaoheng, Zhao Yangzi, and Bai Shuang entered the bank lobby, they discovered that it was crowded. It seemed that the entire upper class of Cape Town had gathered here. The men were all dressed in decent tuxedos, holding glasses of red wine in their hands as they chatted in groups of 2 or 3. The women were all dressed in evening gowns, and all the places that could be exposed were revealed. Bai Shuang's red dress and Gunyinji's smoky gray trousers were like two different species. They were completely out of place in the evening gowns that competed with each other for beauty. Fortunately, Hua Xiaoheng and Zhao Yangzi were both tall, so they intentionally or unintentionally blocked Gunyinji and Bai Shuang from being noticed. Bai Shuang was more familiar with the situation here. Her eyes quickly swept across the faces of the people in the lobby, and she squeezed Zhao Yangzi's arm. Go that way. There's a secret door there and it's the basement elevator. At this time there was no one waiting for the elevator to the basement. But the surveillance was still there. Zhao Yangzi still needed to infiltrate the surveillance camera to modify the footage. Sensing that Bai Shuang was urging him, Zhao Yangzi felt even more upset. She couldn't wait for them to jump into the pit? He shook his head silently. Wait a minute, I need to go to the bathroom. He pushed Bai Shuang's arm away and quickly walked to the bathroom. Bai Shuang squinted at Zhao Yangzi's back, then retracted her gaze as if nothing had happened. The Bluetooth headset in her ear was suddenly connected, and Li Dishi's voice could be heard. Agent Bai, well done. Agent Bai, well done. Bai Shuang smiled and said softly, Mr. Li Dishi, we are here. Are you guys here too? Of course. Otherwise how could I see you? Li Dishi chuckled. Now prepare to take them into the basement. There are still 2 hours before 9 o'clock, so don't get caught. I will be careful. Bai Shuang's eyes drifted around the lobby, and she suddenly saw Hua Xiaoheng and Gun Yanji. She didn't know if it was to deceive others, or if the two of them couldn't help themselves. Bai Shuang saw Hua Xiaoheng in a dimly lit corner with his back to everyone. He pressed Gun Yanji against the wall and lowered his head to kiss her. Gun Yanji wrapped her arms around Hua Xiaoheng's neck and tiptoed. She was very engrossed. There weren't many people there to begin with. Occasionally, someone would walk over and see the two of them kissing. They just thought they were a couple, smiled slightly and walked away. No one bothered to find out who these two people were. This was actually one of their methods of temporarily hiding their identities. Bai Shuang didn't know much about this method, so she only laughed. At this time he still had the mood to flirt. She really didn't know if she should praise Hua Xiaoheng for having the demeanor of a general, or that his relationship with Gun Yanji was as sweet as honey. Zhao Liangzi went to the bathroom and found an empty cubicle to enter. He closed the door, took out his phone, and quickly hacked into the building's security surveillance system. He had already left a back door here in the morning, so it was very easy to find where the surveillance cameras were located. It took 3 minutes to take the elevator from here to the 6th floor of the basement. Zhao Liangzi set the time for the surveillance cameras to malfunction and replaced the footage. His phone became the remote control for the surveillance cameras. He looked at the security situation around him and could see everything from the other party's surveillance cameras. When he came out of the bathroom, he saw Bai Shuang leaning against the wall with her arms crossed and a lonely expression on her face. However, when she turned around and saw him come out, she immediately put on a bright smile. You're done? Let's go to the reception. Zhao Liangzi's heart skipped a beat. He reached out his arm to her. Let's go, Miss Bai. Bai Shuang took his arm and walked with him into the reception hall. The two of them found Gun Yanji and Hua Xiaoheng talking in the corner. The two of them were no longer kissing, but their nonchalant attitude made anyone who wanted to talk to them retreat. Zhao Liangzi walked over with Bai Shuang and said with a smile, Everything is ready. What are we going to do for the next 2 hours? Attend the reception, listen to the speech and drink red wine. Hua Xiaoheng raised his glass to him. Gun Yanji also raised the glass in her hand and glanced at Hua Xiaoheng with some reluctance. Everyone else's glasses were filled with red wine, but hers was grape juice, the naturally squeezed kind. Hua Xiaoheng smiled and chatted with Zhao Liangzi like a real banker. Bai Shuang listened from the side and couldn't help but admire Hua Xiaoheng. This person was really good at pretending. He must have done a lot of work in the banking industry. Otherwise, if an expert came over to chat with him, he would be exposed in an instant. It didn't take long for a banker to come over. He wasn't tall, had gray hair, and his face was covered in wrinkles. However, his eyes were very wise. At a glance, it was obvious that he was a veteran banker. Hua Xiaoheng was vigilant, but he still used fluent English with a British accent to chat with the old man. Gun Yanji giggled the whole time and played the role of a proper vase. At 7 o'clock, the doors outside closed and the lights in the lobby dimmed. It didn't take long for them to light up again. A pot-bellied man stood on the stage and began to speak to everyone. In the 5 minutes that the lights in the lobby went from bright to dark and then from dark to bright again, all of Li Dishi's people slipped out of the lobby and came to the corridor. Their equipment had already been transported in. A dozen or so people carried the gun boxes placed in a small room in the corridor. They took the elevator down to the 6th floor of the basement and hid in 4 or 5 key places. At this time, the surveillance cameras of the bank building were actually being held hostage by 2 parties. Zhao Liangzi had secretly infiltrated, while Li Dishi had directly replaced the bank security personnel on duty today with their own people. Zhao Liangzi stood behind Hua Xiaoheng, holding a glass of wine in one hand and his phone in the other. He looked down from time to make sure that there were no accidents. When Li Dishi and his people left the lobby, the surveillance cameras didn't show anything. Zhao Liangzi only felt that the surveillance footage was a bit strange for a few minutes. But he didn't care too much. He knew that Li Dishi would definitely send people in, but as long as Hua Xiaoheng's people went first, the other party would only be exposed within their shooting range. An hour passed. An hour and 30 minutes passed. An hour and 45 minutes passed. There were still 15 minutes until 9 o'clock. It would take 5 minutes to get to the elevator from here to the secret door. It would take 3 minutes to take the elevator. But from entering to exiting, the entire process would take about 5 minutes. That left another 5 minutes of maneuvering time. They couldn't waste a single minute. Zhao Liangzi pressed the surveillance button and whispered, "We can go now." He let go of Bai Shuang's hand and looked at her deeply. "You stay here and wait for us to come back." Bai Shuang was slightly startled, but she quickly shook her head and said, "I will go with you. If you encounter an accident, I can help you get out of trouble." Was he really going to help her? He was probably going to kill her. Zhao Liangzi snorted coldly as his eyes swept over Bai Shuang's beautiful neck. How could this person be so cruel? Did he really have to break her beautiful neck with his own hands? Zhao Liangzi couldn't think about it. Just thinking about it made him feel like he was about to explode. However, he could only maintain a decent smile on his face and insist on shaking his head. No, you don't understand. Bai Shuang was a little anxious. If she couldn't go with them, then all her previous efforts would really be wasted. She pushed Zhao Liangzi away and called out to Hua Xiaoheng, "Hua Xiao, can I go with you? I also want to help you and contribute." "No." Zhao Liangzi scolded in a low voice and stared at her unkindly. "Bai Shuang, that's enough." Hua Xiaoheng turned around and looked at her with a deep gaze. He knew very well that Li Dishi had been paying attention to their group of people. If they weren't careful, Li Dishi, who was naturally suspicious and cunning, would shrink back. He pretended to be embarrassed and frowned. "Miss Bai, thank you for your help today, but it may not be very safe over there. It's better if you don't go." "You are not familiar with this place, but I know the location of the basement better." Bai Shuang gritted her teeth. She knew that Hua Xiaoheng had always been very vigilant, but she didn't expect him to be this vigilant. She had helped them obtain these top-secret internal information, but he was still indifferent to her. Gun Yinji looked at her, then at Zhao Liangzi. Her eyes finally stopped on Hua Xiaoheng's face. She said softly, "Why don't we let her go with us? I'm a woman alone and I'm also afraid. With Miss Bai around, I'll feel more at ease." Hua Xiaoheng looked at her and didn't speak for a long time. Bai Shuang had already taken Gun Yinji's hand and smiled at Hua Xiaoheng. "Then let's go. Don't dawdle." The corners of Hua Xiaoheng's eyes twitched imperceptibly. If Bai Shuang and Gun Yinji were together, it would be completely impossible to distinguish between friend and foe, and it would be unknown whether they were dead or alive. Was it really necessary to pay such a high price? The veins on Hua Xiaoheng's forehead bulged. At that moment, he could even hear the sound of blood rushing through his veins. At that moment, Zhao Liangzi's calm voice sounded. "Since Miss Bai insists on coming, we won't refuse her hospitality. Why don't we let her follow us? I'll keep an eye on her." His expression was as usual, but Hua Xiaoheng could see the hopelessness and pain in his eyes. His subordinate's heart was bleeding. Hua Xiaoheng looked at him quietly. After a while, he raised his hand and patted him on the shoulder. Without saying anything, he turned around and walked towards the secret door. This was the third chapter of today's 3,500-word chapter. Chapter 1208, I'll keep an eye on her. Good night, dearest. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.